Chapter 384. This kind of spirit herb was extremely rare. It was even rarer than spirit herbs that could increase cultivation and replenish qi and blood. Otherwise, Bai Lishi would not have had to go through so much trouble to find them. When Xiao Chen scanned the area with his spiritual sense, he found only 6 stalks of this kind of spirit herb older than 500 years. Furthermore, they were rather far from each other. Xiao Chen spent an hour before he managed to collect all of them. This was especially so for the last stalk. Someone nearly got to it first. Xiao Chen fought with that person and chased him away before he managed to obtain it after much difficulty. Xiao Chen placed the scarlet blood flower in his universe ring and revealed a satisfied smile. He thought to himself, success. He had obtained all the spirit herbs that he needed the most. Furthermore, he had picked some peak-grade spirit herbs along the way. His harvest was unparalleled. In the remaining time, Xiao Chen would casually look for a few valuable spirit herbs to exchange for some spirit stones. He would no longer be in such a rush. White-robed bladesman Xiao Chen, it looks like your harvest is not small. A familiar melodious voice came from behind. Xiao Chen turned his head back and saw Yu Chenxi with an extraordinary aura. In this herb garden filled with a medicinal fragrance and flowers, Yu Chenxi's aura that could topple cities appeared even more spirited. One could not help but take a few more glances. Jin Wuji, who was beside Xiao Chen, had a wide smile on his face. Clearly, he had obtained what he wanted as well. However, when he saw Xiao Chen, a barely detectable killing qi flashed in his eyes. Xiao Chen smiled gently and said, "It's all right. How was your harvest?" Yu Chenxi stretched out his hand to stroke the black hair on his forehead. He shook his head and smiled gently. "I was not as lucky as you. The thing I wanted was not here. However, I did find some spirit herbs that could increase cultivation." At this moment, a series of exclamations suddenly rang out from the end of the herb garden. Everyone quickly gathered there. Xiao Chen turned his head back out of curiosity. He discovered that the place where the crowd gathered had already surpassed the size of the herb garden. Xiao Chen had not used his spiritual sense to scan that place, so he did not know what it was. Jin Wuji's expression changed, and he said, "Let's go and take a look." The two of them quickly followed behind him. When they arrived, they discovered that there was actually another small herb garden at the end of the several thousand zhang long herb garden. However, there weren't any precious spirit herbs in that small herb garden. All of them had a kind of bitter tea-colored flowers. In the middle of the flowers, a sacred coffin made of white jade lay quietly. It looked incomparably solemn. Sage coffin. It really is a sage coffin. It is completely made of platinum-glazed jade. Only a martial sage can rest in this coffin. I've struck it rich this time. I just need to find one of the funerary objects of a sage, and I won't have to worry about it. If it's the body of a blue-robed emperor, after 1,000 years, there might even be a holy treasure left behind, which could directly double his power. Legend has it that if a martial artist reached the level of the blue-robed emperor, his corpse would not decompose even after thousands of years. If there was a good method to nourish it, the cultivation, and experience of a sage's life would condense into a supreme holy treasure in the body. As for a super expert of the level of Emperor Wu, there was no need to go through so much trouble. As long as they died, they would definitely leave behind a holy treasure. Furthermore, it would be an even higher emperor-grade secret treasure. The 200-odd cultivators all revealed excited gazes as they cried out in astonishment. In the crowd, the knife-scarred man in a black robe also had an extremely excited look in his eyes. Using a voice that everyone could hear, he said, "The information is correct. There really is the remains of a saint. This time, the sect leader will definitely be satisfied." Xiao Chen's gaze was calm as he revealed a pondering expression. He carefully observed the structure and terrain of the small herb garden. Slowly, he discovered something interesting. The boundary of the large herb garden was an inconspicuous concave shape. Furthermore, this small herb garden happened to be embedded within this concave shape. The place with the densest earth-ranked spiritual energy actually flowed towards that small herb garden. There was only one purpose for doing this: to nourish a holy treasure. The sage's body in this sage coffin would definitely have a holy treasure. Xiao Chen muttered to himself, this senior really put in a lot of effort, leaving behind supreme treasures for his descendants. After his descendants obtained the treasure map, they could enter the treasure island to cultivate and obtain treasures every once in a while. This ensured that the strength of the clan's descendants could be passed down continuously. The demonic beasts and combat puppets left behind to guard the treasures were a test for the clan's descendants. If they wanted to obtain the treasures, they had to be strong enough. If they did not have enough strength, they would have to wait for the next generation of talented clan disciples to obtain the treasures. Like this, it was a survival of the fittest. This ensured that the clan would prosper and would never decline. After 1,000 years, the holy treasure in his body would be obtained by the clan's descendants. Then, the clan would rise up. However, this senior, who had reached the level of a half-step Emperor Wu, did not expect that the strength of his descendants would be too weak. Not long after he died, his descendants were all killed. Then, the treasure map was circulated in the Devil Savannah. As Xiao Chen pondered all this, the 200-odd cultivators present all ran into the small herb garden impatiently. Jin Wuji also followed. Yu Chenxi glanced at Xiao Chen, who did not move. He said with some surprise, "White-robed bladesman Xiao Chen, are you not interested in the holy treasure? Even if you cannot obtain the holy treasure, it should not be a problem for you to snatch a few burial items." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. He glanced at the black-robed bladesman 100 meters away. That person did not move either. Then, Xiao Chen used his finger to point at the few peak martial kings at the front of the crowd. His meaning was clear without saying. It was not that they did not want to, it was that there was no opportunity. Even if they went, it would be a waste. The remaining 6 peak martial kings in the herb garden exchanged glances and smiled tacitly. Bang! 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 A few strands of extremely strong saber chi and sword chi suddenly shot out from the weapons in the hands of the 6 people. The cultivators beside each of them were all stunned. Before these peak martial kings could react, the strong sword chi struck them. Those with strong defenses were severely injured and lost their combat prowess. As for those with weak defenses, they were chopped in half, dying without a complete corpse. The moment these peak martial kings made their move, they used their full power. Surging essence combined with strong states, they were practically unrivaled in the crowd. With the 6 peak martial kings working together, they killed 70 to 80 people in a few breaths of time. Dozens of people were severely injured and lost their combat prowess. If they did not die, they would be severely injured. Since they did not hold back at all, there were no cultivators who were lightly injured. After a while, the bloody bladesman Sun Guangquan was the first to stop. He said sullenly, "You are not qualified to obtain the supreme treasure left behind by a half-step Emperor Wu. Just obediently go to the herb garden and pick some spirit herbs." The 1,000 slaughterer Wang, he also stopped what he was doing. He slowly wiped the blood off his hands and said sinisterly, "If you are dissatisfied, you can try my 1,000 slaughterer hand." The other 4 peak martial kings all stopped as well. Their killing chi soared into the sky. When they linked together, they formed a vast sea pressing down on the crowd. The remaining cultivators were horrified. Along with fear, there was an indescribable rage. Originally, with the strength of more than 200 people, they would have been able to fight against the 6 peak martial kings. However, no one expected these peak martial kings to have such a tacit understanding. They immediately came to an agreement to chase away the others. Caught off guard, they killed more than 100 people. Even if the remaining cultivators wanted to fight, they did not have the strength to do so. The sudden turn of events shocked Yu Chenxi. He looked at Xiao Chen again. Xiao Chen's calm expression was like he had expected this. This made Yu Chenzi feel like he could not see through him. You knew this would happen long ago? Yu Chenzi could not help but ask. Xiao Chen nodded and said softly, "It is common sense. When they worked together to stop the other cultivators outside the herb garden, I could guess it. The reason they did not start a massacre in the herb garden was because there were no treasures worth making a move on them. Furthermore, the herb garden was very vast. The things they obtained were more than enough for them to share. Now that the sage treasure had appeared, it was clear that there were not enough for the 6 of them. How could they allow the others to join in?" Yu Chenzi continued to ask, "Then why are you not leaving? Could there still be a chance?" Xiao Chen did not say anything. He only casually glanced at the black-robed man 100 meters away. "I will count to 10. I hope there will not be a 7th person in the small herb garden. Otherwise we will all die," a peak martial king in the small herb garden said expressionlessly. A martial king could not help but curse. This is too much. How can he be so tyrannical? Jin Wuji, who was in the crowd, was filled with rage as well. However, at the same time, he looked at the few strands of black hair in his hand with lingering fear. Earlier, he had gotten too close and caught the attention of the bloody bladesman, Sun Guangquan. After Sun Guangquan saw Jin Wuji's appearance, Sun Guangquan only chopped off a few strands of black hair. Jin Wuji knew that Sun Guangquan was giving face to his sect. If Jin Wuji did not leave, Sun Guangquan would not give him face. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. As that peak martial king started counting, the other cultivators felt uneasy. However, when they saw the many bloody corpses on the ground, they could only helplessly leave the herb garden. They could only leave the herb garden helplessly. By the time they counted to 8, not a single one was left. This peak martial king immediately stopped counting and revealed a satisfied smile. He said indifferently, "That's more like it. No matter how good a treasure is, if one does not have the life to enjoy it, what is the point?" Boom! Just as the peak martial king spoke, the scarred black-robed man appeared beside the sage coffin at some point in time. He used his palm to lift the lid off the coffin. Hu-chi! Hu-chi! The coffin lid made of platinum-glazed jade spun intensely in the air. It spun faster and faster until it turned into an earth-shattering whirlwind. The strong wind howled. Unexpectedly, there was the roar of tigers and wolves in the wind. Dust flew everywhere and petals filled the air. In an instant, the entire small herb garden changed color. The coffin lid carried a boundless strong wind and dust. It carried an overwhelming aura as it surged towards the 6 peak martial kings. Chapter 385. The opportunity that Xiao Chen had been waiting for finally appeared. An electric light flashed, and his body instantly disappeared from Yu Chenzi's side. The scarred man in black robes did not hesitate to take out the corpse of the half-step Emperor Wu. Just as he was about to take away the funerary objects inside, a bolt of lightning suddenly appeared beside him, followed by an extremely sharp blood-red saber light. An extremely sharp scarlet saber light formed a boundless saber technique. Occasionally, it flickered with electricity as it attacked the scarred man. The scarred man ignored this attack and decisively withdrew his hand. Then, he carried the half-step Emperor Wu's corpse and soared into the sky. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. The incomparably sharp saber technique from earlier vanished without a trace. He had bet correctly that this fellow would not dare to clash head-on with him. He was afraid of being delayed and unable to leave. Without any hesitation, Xiao Chen made his move at lightning speed. He swept all the burial items in the platinum-glazed coffin into his universe ring. Without even looking at the items in the universe ring, Xiao Chen flew close to the ground and silently left the small herb garden amid a cloud of dust. Bang! The 6 peak martial kings attacked with all their might, shattering the coffin lid that was approaching ferociously. However, the force of the coffin lid was simply too strong. When it shattered, it created an intense shock wave. The shock wave surged, and the six all took a step back. When the shock wave dissipated, they quickly rushed towards the coffin. Damn! There is nothing left. Not to mention the sage treasure, there is not even a single burial item left. The six peak martial kings looked at the empty coffin. Their hearts trembled, and their expressions changed wildly. He has not gone far. He is still in the sky. The bloody bladesman looked at the sky and tossed the dragon-tooth saber in the direction that the scarred man had gone. The black dragon-tooth saber turned into a beam of light and instantly disappeared. In the next instant, a tyrannical black dragon appeared behind the scarred man and smashed him down. The scarred man landed on the ground, and the six instantly surrounded him without saying anything. Sharp attacks covered the sky and covered the earth as they unfolded, not giving him a chance to speak at all. By then, Shao Chen had already appeared beside Yu Chenzi. He had a calm expression on his face and a faint smile on his face as he watched the seven of them fight furiously. Yu Chenzi, who had witnessed everything, had a look of disbelief in his eyes. How did this guy do it? He effortlessly collected all of the funerary items. The martial technique of the scarred man in black robes was very strange. When he made his move, there was a black gas drifting around his palm, accompanied by an extremely strong corrosive gas. Shao Chen felt that this person's aura seemed a little familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it before. In terms of individual strength, aside from the bloody bladesman, Sun Guangquan, the other peak martial kings would not be a match for him. However, the scarred man could not handle so many people. Furthermore, his opponents were not weak. Furthermore, the black-robed man was carrying the corpse of the half-step Emperor Wu. Slowly, the scarred man started to show signs of weakness. When a cultivator reached martial sage, they could steal a trace of the heavenly Tao. The Savannah King was only a step away from Emperor Wu. He would definitely be able to steal more of the heavenly Tao. The energy of the heavenly Tao had not dissipated even after 1,000 years. Such a corpse could not be placed in a spatial ring. If it was forcefully placed, the heavenly Tao's energy would instantly destroy the weak spatial energy. Hence, the black-robed cultivator could only endure it, becoming even more passive. Given his strength, Shao Chen estimated that if he put down the Savannah King's corpse, he would have no problems escaping. The sudden change in the small herb garden stunned the cultivators, who left for a long time before they recovered their wits. Their eyes began to flicker, and they all stopped outside the small herb garden, unwilling to leave. They all hoped to see both sides suffer. That way they would be able to take advantage of the situation. Shao Chen smiled faintly. He could not be bothered to continue watching. However, no matter what the result was, it had nothing to do with him. There was no need for him to linger here. Who knew, he might end up attracting trouble. Shao Chen turned around and returned to the large herb garden. Then, he started picking some high-ranked spirit herbs again. When Yu Chenzi saw the situation, he quickly followed. This is the dog-ant grass that can cure hundreds of poisons. It is especially useful for snake venom. Pick it. White wisdom grass. This is the main ingredient for refining the clear wind Jade pill for treating injuries. It is also 200 years old. Pick it. A 500-year-old snow ginseng. Although it is only 500 years old, it is not bad. I missed it earlier. It can increase my cultivation by 7 or 8 years. Pick it. Shao Chen could already conclude this trip perfectly. Now, he could not even be bothered to release his spiritual sense. He strolled around the large herb garden and picked the good herbs he saw. In just a moment, there were several dozen more herbs in his universe ring. Another large harvest. As for the cultivators who were waiting outside the small herb garden, hoping that both sides would be injured, they could not obtain anything. They could only wait helplessly. They were still waiting for the big fish. After both sides were injured, they would be able to get a share of the burial items in the sage coffin. However, they did not know that Shao Chen had already obtained the burial items. Yu Chenzi, who knew everything, looked at the cultivators waiting anxiously outside the small herb garden with anticipation in their eyes. He felt that these people were too foolish. Yuchensi, who had been following behind Xiao Chen, looked at the incredibly calm Xiao Chen. Finally, he could not help but ask, "White-robed bladesman Xiao Chen, I really do not understand. Even at this moment, how can you still be so calm? If the 6 peak martial kings knew that you were the one who took the burial items, you would not even have time to run. Yet, you are still in the mood to continue picking spirit herbs." Xiao Chen stood up and carefully placed the spirit herbs he just picked into his universe ring. He smiled gently and said, "I am not like you, with the support of the Supreme Sky Sect. You probably have a lot of natural treasures, spirit pills, and miraculous medicines. This is a rare opportunity. Naturally, I have to pick more. Who knows, this vast herb garden might be gone in a while. I have to make good use of my time." When Yuchensi heard this, he was slightly stunned. The Supreme Sky Sect had its own herb garden. It was even larger than the herb garden here. Furthermore, it had professionals looking after it for close to 10,000 years. There was also a complete alchemy hall and the peak alchemists of the continent. Hence, Xiao Chen did not lack spirit pills. This was also why she was not interested in this herb garden. However, when she heard Xiao Chen say that this herb garden would disappear, she found it funny. She said softly, "Ha ha! You are too good at joking. How could this herb garden suddenly disappear? That is impossible." Chi. Just as she finished speaking, all the herbs in the large herb garden began to wither at a speed visible to the naked eye. Before Xiao Chen could pull out a 300-year-old green light grass, it withered in Xiao Chen's hand. It lost all its medicinal energy and no longer had any life force. The huge herb garden, which was filled with medicinal herbs, withered rapidly in front of the two of them. It was like time flowed quickly, from spring to autumn, from autumn to winter. Everything in the world withered in an instant. Yuchensi's expression changed greatly. His face was filled with disbelief. He said somewhat nervously, You knew this would happen?" Xiao Chen's face was filled with shock as well. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. "I really did not know. I was just casually saying it earlier. Let's go to the small herb garden and take a look. All the medicinal energy is flowing there." The two circulated their movement techniques and arrived at the periphery of the small herb garden after a while. They saw that the cultivators who were waiting at the side had all joined the battle. Strange, these people are all very crafty. Why would they take the risk of joining the battle before the outcome of the battle was determined? Xiao Chen looked at the herb garden and his expression suddenly changed. The camellias that were originally blooming in the small herb garden had all withered, their life force drained away. Previously, the black-robed scarred man would only release a black chi when he attacked. Now, his entire body was covered in a black chi. The black chi sizzled in the air. It seemed like the air was corroded. It was very strange, deterring people from getting too close. Everyone's attacks seemed to be somewhat fearful. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He finally understood why he found this black-robed man familiar. This fellow had a demonic beast martial spirit in his body. That black chi was the demonic chi from the demonic world. It was exactly the same as the one he saw Yu chasing after in the demonic beast forest. In the small herb garden, 6 black coffins had appeared behind the scarred man at some point in time. The coffins were already lying on the ground. 6 corpses with their eyes closed stood quietly in the coffins. There were 3 red marks on their foreheads. The 6 corpses wore heavy armor made of profound iron. Their exposed skin glowed black like steel. As the life force of countless spirit herbs poured into the coffins, the 6 corpses suddenly opened their eyes. They slowly walked out with heavy step. Boom! 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 Unexpectedly, the 6 corpses came to life just like that. The profound iron armor on their bodies weighed an unknown amount of kilograms. With every step they took, the ground trembled. Yuchensi had a grave expression as he said, "These are rank 3 black-blooded demonic corpses. It is a method unique to the Dark Church to refine corpses. This person is actually a remnant of the Dark Church. No wonder he wants the sage body of the Savannah King. He actually wants to refine the sage body into a demonic corpse. This is too horrifying, we cannot let him leave." Xiao Chen had heard of the Dark Church before. It was the mortal enemy of humanity. It was created by evil cultivators who willingly prostrated themselves at the feet of the demonic god. From the very beginning, it existed to help the demonic world unify the entire continent. However, many years ago, the 3 holy masters worked together with all the sects in the world and chased them out of the continent. Most of the core members of the Dark Church were killed as well. Even their church master was killed by the 3 holy lords working together. The Dark Church could be said to have completely collapsed. Only some weak remnant forces remained. When the cultivators of the continent saw the remnants of the Dark Church, they had to work together to kill them, no matter who they were. This was an ancient rule passed down from generation to generation. Basically, no one disobeyed it. The moment the 6 black-blooded demonic corpses appeared, they immediately charged into the crowd. Their huge bodies carried a huge force. They were like tanks driving into the crowd. Dang! 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 When the attacks of the crowd struck the black-blooded demonic corpses, they gave off dull metallic clangs. These black-blooded demonic corpses did not have any weaknesses. Be it their heads or eyes, they were not weak. They did not have emotions or feel pain. The black-blooded demonic corpses did not care about the attacks coming at them. With a backhand strike, they pierced through their opponents' bodies. Chapter 386. When the black-blooded demonic corpses stopped the crowd, the scarred man smiled coldly. He carried the Savannah King's corpse and quickly left this place. A few peak martial kings wanted to give chase. However, the black-blooded demonic corpses held them back. They had no chance to leave. Boom! Suddenly, a multicolored light appeared in the sky above. Yuchensi leaped into the air and continuously executed the morning sun fist. A dazzling light exploded on her delicate fist. It was like the sun was breaking as she charged at the scarred man. Bang! The scarred man did not dodge. He took this punch head-on. His body flew forward, and he vomited a large mouthful of blood. Bang! 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 Another few powerful fist winds descended from the sky. They broke through the void and struck the scarred man's body with lightning speed. All of them landed on the scarred man's body. The scarred man vomited a few mouthfuls of blood. However, he used the force of the blows to move a large distance forward. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from Yuchensi's sight. For the sake of the Savannah King's holy body, this person was willing to risk everything. Unexpectedly, he used such a decisive method to escape. Xiao Chen was very clear on the might of the morning sun fist. This person would not be able to recover without at least half a year of recuperation. How hateful! I actually let him escape. Yuchensi landed firmly beside Xiao Chen. Her beautiful face revealed an expression of extreme pity. Suddenly, the ground trembled. The 6 black-blooded demonic corpses found an opportunity to return to the black coffins. Bang! The 6 coffin lids bounced up and the entire coffin merged back together. Then, it quickly sank into the ground and disappeared from everyone's sight. After a long time, the small herb garden was still silent. Everyone's mood was extremely gloomy. When everyone looked at the withered herb garden, they all had extremely dispirited expressions. Earlier, there were treasures everywhere. Now everything was empty. Not only did they not obtain the sage treasures and the Savannah King's burial items, but even the natural treasures of the herb garden, which they thought they did not have to worry about, were gone. In the end, he didn't get any benefits from either side. It was all for naught. After a long time, the Bloody Bladesman, Sun Guangquan, sighed somewhat gloomily. He smiled bitterly and said, "Everyone, there is no need to be too depressed. There is still a long way to go. After you leave, I hope that you will spread the news of the Dark Church's remnants so that the various sects will be on guard. I will take my leave first." After Bloody Bladesman spoke, he turned into a red beam of light and quickly left the herb garden. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the crowd. The other peak experts looked at the withered herb garden with extremely ugly expressions. Not long after, they also dispersed. Luckily, my luck is pretty good. I didn't go around looking for those spiritual herbs that are over 500 years old. I managed to pick a few stalks of spiritual herbs that are over 100 years old. I'm depressed. I've been looking for herbs that are more than 500 years old. I didn't pay attention to herbs that are more than 100 years old. I haven't found anything yet. That's normal. Century-old spirit herbs are everywhere here, so they aren't that valuable. Naturally, they would want to find spirit herbs that are older than 500 years. Who would have thought that the Dark Church's people would suddenly appear? I can only learn from my mistakes. Unexpectedly, the Dark Church still has such strong people. This time, they managed to snatch the Sage Treasure and the Savannah King's corpse. I believe that their faction has already risen from the ashes. This is not something for us to worry about. It is the worry of a large sect. Since there are still a few days left, let's go to the other side palaces and try our luck. Let's go. The many cultivators in the herb garden did not find anything. They all shook their heads and sighed. Then, they walked out dispiritedly. A public land of fortuitous encounters like the Savannah King's was not that easy to find. If they wanted to run into more fortuitous encounters in the future, it would not be that easy. The crowd could not help but sigh. Xiao Chen's expression was calm. He had gained a lot on this trip, but he did not show it. He did not show any joy or sorrow. Others would not be able to see anything wrong with him. It is time to leave, Xiao Chen thought to himself. He said goodbye to Yu Chenxi and headed out of the herb garden. After leaving the herb garden, Xiao Chen returned to the 15th floor of the main palace. He did not linger as he quickly headed out of the main palace. As the huge waves weakened, the number of cultivators that arrived gradually increased. He could still see many cultivators in the treasure rooms on the 13th floor. 10 minutes later, Xiao Chen walked out of the main palace. When he looked back, the entire palace was still in ruins. Beside the main palace, there were some extremely dilapidated side palaces. There should be some good things in there. However, Xiao Chen was not interested. He had obtained a large number of spirit herbs that could increase his cultivation in the herb garden. They could save him 4 or 5 months. He wanted to make use of this opportunity to break through to peak superior grade martial saint. Then, he would forcefully open the few minor meridians required for the Purple Thunder Divine Incantations 6th layer. Finally, he would break through to Martial King. Suddenly, he felt a familiar aura. The spirit blood jade flashed twice. It should be Bai and the others. Xiao Chen looked around and immediately executed the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. Soon, he saw Kim Taeho, Su Xiaoxiao, and Bai. Elder brother Xiao Chen, why didn't you come back after you left? Bai thought you didn't want me anymore. When Bai saw Xiao Chen's familiar figure, he immediately rushed over and hugged Xiao Chen. His eyes were filled with tears. Xiao Chen felt warmth in his heart. He smiled faintly and released Bai. Then, he rubbed his head and said, "Something happened, so I came early. Don't worry." When Kim Taeho saw the group of people coming out of the main hall, his expression seemed off. His sharp senses sensed that something was wrong. He looked at Xiao Chen and said, "What happened in the main hall? Something feels off." Xiao Chen replied, "The Dark Church's people appeared. A large herb garden filled with natural treasures was destroyed. The burial goods and corpses of the sage were all snatched away." When Su Xiaoxiao and Kim Taeho heard this, their expressions changed. Clearly, they had not expected the Dark Church's people to appear. After a while, Kim Taeho recovered his calm. He laughed and said, looking at Brother Zhao's expression, It does not look like you did not gain anything. You must have gained a lot, right? Xiao Qin smiled faintly and said, "It's all right. I will talk to you in detail after we go out. The good things in the main hall are basically gone. Do you want to go?" Kim Tae-ho smiled gently and said, "Naturally, we have to go. Even though the main hall is gone, there should still be some things in the side halls. We can't return empty-handed." "In that case, I will wait for you at the Green Wind Island," Xiao Qin said softly. "See you at the Green Wind Island. I will take my leave first." After the group left, Xiao Qin led Bai to the shore. In a few days, the huge waves would return to their previous intensity. If they did not leave at that time, they would be trapped in there until they died. White-robed bladesman Xiao Qin, wait up. The two arrived at the shore. Just as they were about to depart, a melodious voice came from behind them. When Xiao Qin heard this form of address, he did not need to turn his head to know who it was. Indeed, it was the fairy-like Yuchensi. Seeing Yuchensi fly over quickly, Xiao Qin carefully sized her up. He smiled gently and said, "I say, Miss Yuchensi, you don't have to address me like that every time. You can just call me Xiao Qin." Yuchensi smiled faintly. Her smile was like a blooming epiphyllum, beautiful and alluring. Xiao Qin had seen too many smiles that could mesmerize most men. He had completely lost his immunity to it. "I feel that addressing you this way can close the distance between us. I feel that you are purposely avoiding me. Am I that scary?" Yuchensi explained with a smile. How could someone who could injure the scarred man and make him vomit blood with just a few punches not be scary? Xiao Qin felt speechless in his heart. Furthermore, the other party had a sensitive identity. Xiao Qin really did not want to have too much to do with this woman. He did not want the situation that Kim Tae-ho mentioned to happen. Once he entered the great Jin nation, countless cats and dogs would come to challenge him. Xiao Qin collected his thoughts and said in a deep voice, "Long story short, why are you looking for me? You want me to give you a few funerary items. Anyone who sees it will get a share. Your request is not too much." Yuchensi pouted and said, "Who cares about the things of the dead? I want you to help me get the daybreak flower." Xiao Qin asked, "Is there anything in it for me?" Yuchensi replied, "No." "Bai, let's go." Xiao Qin led Bai forward without looking back. Yuchensi was speechless and a little dazed. Bai asked doubtfully, "Big brother Xiao Qin, why don't you help that sister? She is so pretty, she shouldn't be a bad person." Xiao Qin lectured seriously, "You can't judge a person by their appearance. She looks pretty, but she doesn't have a brain. Helping her won't end well for you. In the future, when you see a handsome guy, don't be muddle-headed. Otherwise, you will be taken advantage of." Bai nodded, not really understanding. Yes, Bai understands. That sister wants to take advantage of big brother Xiao Qin. Bai will not let anyone else take advantage of her. Only big brother Xiao Qin will take advantage of her. Xiao Qin almost laughed when he heard that. He wanted to explain, but he decided against it. The more he explained, the more confused he would be. Behind him, Yuchensi watched as Xiao Qin left nonchalantly when he heard that there were no benefits. His fairy-like face was stunned for a long time. Now that he heard the conversation between Xiao Qin and Bai, he went berserk. This fellow is too shameless. How did I become taking advantage of him? Morning sun fist. In his rage, he punched. His delicate fist released a dazzling light. An extremely tyrannical fist wind flew at Xiao Qin. Break! Xiao Qin turned around and drew his saber at lightning speed. He executed drawing the saber and his speed instantly reached Mach 3. He chopped the fist wind in half. After the tyrannical fist wind was chopped in half, it did not immediately dissipate. Instead, it brushed past Xiao Qin's shoulders and flew far away before stopping. Xiao Qin sheathed his saber and looked at the raging Yuchensi. His expression was extremely calm. He smiled gently and said, "Miss Chensi, why are you so angry?" Yuchensi frowned tightly. She quickly walked over to Xiao Chen and said angrily, "Speak clearly. How did this miss take advantage of you?" Xiao Chen said calmly, "You did not give me any benefits, so you helped me. If this is not taking advantage of me, what is?" "That is true, but. Chapter 387. Yu Chenxi's face froze. He was stumped by Xiao Chen's words. After thinking about it carefully, it seemed to make sense. However, he still felt that something was wrong. This person was too despicable. In the past, when he needed help, there would be countless people rushing to help him without him even asking. He even looked down on them. However, this Xiao Chen took the initiative to ask for help. He owed him a favor. How could he say that he was taking advantage of me? Thinking of this word, Yu Chenxi finally understood what was wrong. He quickly said, "You can say that I owe you a favor. How can you say that I am taking advantage of you?" Looking at Yu Chenxi's angry expression, Bai said timidly, "Sister Yu, that was what Bai said, not Brother Xiao Chen. Don't blame Brother Xiao Chen." When Yu Chenxi heard this, she was stumped again. It seemed like Xiao Bai was the one who said it, but she got angry at Xiao Chen. How depressing. When I meet with this fellow, why does it seem like I am being unreasonable? Yu Chenxi thought angrily in her heart. Xiao Chen smiled gently and pulled Bai behind him. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't blame yourself. Actually, that is what I meant. You just said it for me first." Then, when Yu Chenxi was about to lose his temper, Xiao Chen continued, "Don't be angry. Just as you said, take it as a favor. Tell me the details. I want to see if your favor is worth the risk." Yu Chenxi said angrily, Why do I feel like I am talking business with you? You are so unscrupulous." When Xiao Chen heard the word business, something stirred in his heart, stirring him up. If all the things in the world could be like business, fair trading and good parting. Xiao Chen also felt that it was not bad. Unfortunately, he had seen too much. The nature of the world was the survival of the fittest. Without strength, there would be no fairness. Forget it. You can say whatever you want. Just tell me what you want me to help you with, Xiao Chen said indifferently. Yu Chenxi thought for a while and organized his words in his mind. Then, he told Xiao Chen the whole story. It turned out that after she finished her training in the Boundless Sea, she had planned to return to the Jin Nation. However, she had unexpectedly met Jin Wuji on Green Wind Island. Jin Wuji had met Jin Wuji once in the previous 5-nation youth competition and exchanged a few words with him. Now that they met again, it was hard not to greet him. Jin Wuji first invited Yu Chenxi to a gathering at the restaurant, but Yu Chenxi was in a hurry to return. Furthermore, in her eyes, the quality of this gathering was not very high. The people who came were not the top geniuses of the various nations. Furthermore, she did not have much of a relationship with Jin Wuji, so there was no need for her to agree to their request. Furthermore, she could guess that Jin Wuji wanted to use her identity to expand his influence. All the more she would not agree. However, Jin Wuji told her that there was news of the daybreak grass on Qianren Island. As long as she was willing to attend the gathering, he would tell her the exact location of the daybreak grass. The martial technique that Yu Chenxi practiced, the morning sun fist, had to be supplemented with the corresponding cultivation technique, the morning sun incantation. However, it was extremely difficult to improve the morning sun incantation. If one had the support of the daybreak flower, they could greatly increase the speed of their cultivation. Furthermore, the effects of the daybreak flower were not temporary, they were permanent. Xiao Chen looked around and asked suspiciously, "The daybreak flower should have a demonic beast or spirit beast guarding it. You are here to ask for my help. However, Jin Wuji should be very willing to help you. Why do I not see him?" Yu Chenxi said, "He was injured by the black-blooded demonic corpses and left in a hurry. He could not even take care of himself." Xiao Chen thought about it carefully and discovered that it was not a particularly difficult problem. He raised his head and said, "It is not a big problem, I will help you. However, I will forget about the favor. Just treat it as me returning the favor of keeping the secret for me in the herb garden. Yuchensi smiled gently. He finally heard this fellow say something decent. He was no longer so infuriating. In that case, let's go. Follow me. Under Yuchensi's lead, the three of them quickly headed to the north of Qianren Island. Qianren Island was very large. It was not much smaller than Green Wind Island. However, it was much more desolate. Aside from the majestic, dilapidated palace, there were no other buildings on the island. There were rocks everywhere and no grass grew. Yuchensi, who was leading the way, suddenly stopped. He gestured for the two to hide behind a huge rock. He poked his head out and pointed to an empty space 1,000 meters ahead. There was nothing there except for a 10-meter-tall black wolf crouching there. The daybreak flower is beside that wolf. Be careful. That wolf's senses are very strong, Yuchensi said softly. Xiao Chen took a closer look. There was nothing there. There was nothing there at all. He thought that Yuchensi had said the wrong place. He used his spiritual sense to scan the wolf's surroundings. However, he still did not discover anything. Xiao Chen could not help but look suspiciously at Yuchensi. The daybreak flower? Why don't I see it? Yuchensi suddenly said, I forgot to tell you. The daybreak flower can only be seen when the sun rises. Furthermore, it only lasts for a short period of time, no more than 5 minutes. When Xiao Chen heard this, he looked at the sky above him. It was only noon. There were still more than 20 hours until the next day's dawn. Where did that wolf come from? It seems to only have the strength of a rank 7 demonic beast. With your strength, you should not need any help, Xiao Chen said in a deep voice. The wolf crouched on the ground. It was more than 10 meters tall and extremely burly. Its eyes were pitch black, and it did not seem to have anything special about it. However, Xiao Chen keenly felt that something was wrong. This wolf might not be as ordinary as it looked. Otherwise, Yuchensi would not have called him for help for no reason. Yuchensi explained, that is a greedy dream wolf. It is not a demonic beast. It is a rank 7 spirit beast. Its strength is average, but it is good at creating illusions. It is extremely rare. The daybreak flower's fragrance can help it speed up its cultivation. Wherever it is, there will definitely be a daybreak flower. Later, I will make a move first to attract its attention. You go and pick the flower. As long as the two of us do not fall into the illusion at the same time, it will be easy to deal with. Xiao Chen nodded and did not say anything else. He took out a medial-grade spirit stone from the universe ring and sat cross-legged on the ground. Hey, what are you doing? Yuchensi looked at Xiao Chen, who was preparing to cultivate. He said in astonishment, at this time, when the huge waves are weaker, it is the time when there are the most people on the island. If we startle the greedy dream wolf, it might eat the daybreak flower. Xiao Chen shook his head and said, there is no need to go through so much trouble with the two of us. You alone should be enough. If there are any unexpected situations, just wake me up. There were still more than 20 hours to wait. This was a long time. Xiao Chen did not want to waste this time. Furthermore, staring in one direction for a long time made him tired. Xiao Chen slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. An endless stream of spiritual energy came from the medial-grade spirit stone and headed for the Qi whirlpool in his dantian. Xiao Chen had just broken through to superior-grade martial saint not long ago. He still needed some time to stabilize his cultivation before he could use the spirit herb to break through to peak superior-grade martial saint. After all, spirit herbs were external items. Without a good foundation, they would be like a loose dam. The vast medicinal energy was like a gushing flood. Without a good dam, it would immediately collapse. Not only would it not raise his cultivation, but it would also cause great harm to his cultivation. Xiao Chen had to be careful. Xiao Chen did not have the ability to fail. Thus, he could not waste too much of the 20-odd hours he had left. The pure essence in the spirit stone was quickly drained. As the purple thunder divine incantation circulated in a great cycle, it slowly flowed into his dantian. The purple cyclone expanded bit by bit, becoming more solid and tenacious bit by bit. Time slowly went by. By the time Xiao Chen opened his eyes again, the sky was already dark. It was already evening. When Bai saw that Xiao Chen had woken up, she said pitifully, "Elder brother Xiao Chen, Bai is hungry." Xiao Chen smiled gently and put away the medial-grade spirit stone that still had half of its energy left. He said, "Let's eat, I am a little hungry as well." When Bai heard this, she immediately smiled happily. She received the food that Xiao Chen handed over and started eating happily. Aside from preserving the quality of the food, the universe ring could also preserve freshness. Thus, Xiao Chen's food was very tasty. It almost retained its original taste. The aroma assailed their noses. The two of them ate to their satisfaction. Xiao Chen took out a wine cup and filled it with wine, preparing to take another sip. Bai quickly removed the bottle gourd at her waist. Her intelligent eyes squinted into a pair of crescent moons. She looked very cute. "Elder brother Xiao Chen, come, cheers." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and clinked his bottle gourd with Bai's. Then, he drained the wine in his cup in one gulp. Yuchensi turned his head and looked at the two eating happily. His intelligent eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. He said somewhat speechlessly, "White-robed hero, what are you doing now?" Xiao Chen gently put down the wine cup and muttered, "Eating." Yuchensi said somewhat angrily, "This daybreak flower is very important to me. If I miss this opportunity, who knows how long I will have to wait to find it again. If we startle the greedy dream wolf, all our efforts will be for naught. I beg you, white-robed hero, can you be more serious? As a cultivator, it is no big deal to skip a meal. Just bear with it and it will be over." Gurgle, gurgle. Just as Yuchensi finished speaking, a strange sound came from her stomach. It was drawn out. Suddenly Yuchensi blushed. Only now did she remember that she had rushed back from the boundless sea and then rushed to Qianren Island. It had been a long time since she had eaten. Bai quickly took out some food and handed it to Yuchensi. She said, "Elder sister your stomach is growling from hunger. Eat something. If you do not eat, you will feel uncomfortable." In the past, Bai often forgot to eat as well. Yuchensi blushed. She could only blame her stomach for not doing her best. Of all times, it had to growl at this moment. Earlier, she had said that as a cultivator, skipping a meal was nothing. She had used this reason to teach Xiao Chen a lesson. In the end, retribution came. "He is going to make me laugh to death," Yuchensi thought awkwardly. "Eat something." For a peak medial grade Martial King's stomach to growl, you must have not eaten for at least half a month. Since the daybreak flower is so important to you, all the more you need to eat. I will help you take a look. Chapter 388. Xiao Chen walked over and patted Yuchensi's shoulder calmly. Then, he took over her position and stared at the black greedy dream wolf in front. Yuchensi felt warmth in her heart. She was very touched. She had not expected the cold and somewhat emotionless Xiao Chen to be so considerate. Just as she was about to thank him, she discovered that Xiao Chen's lips twitched a few times. It was clear that he wanted to laugh but was trying to hold it in. Yuchensi clenched her fist and smacked Xiao Chen hard. She said angrily, If you want to laugh, just laugh. Why do you have to hold it in and pretend to be a good person?" Bang! Bang! Fists rained down. However, Xiao Chen could no longer hold it in. He laughed and allowed Yuchensi's fists to land on him. Although they were competing in strength, the other party did not use any essence. Xiao Chen could throw the dragon tendon tiger bone at her. Xiao Chen also did not circulate the dragon and tiger body sculpting art. Otherwise, Yuchensi would beat herself up. Xiao Chen stretched out his hands and grabbed Yuchensi's disorderly fists. He smiled gently and said, "Heroine, eat something. As a cultivator, their stomachs will growl too." Yuchensi rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen. She was no longer in the mood to continue pestering him. She obediently received the food that Bai handed over and started eating. At first, she was enjoying the food elegantly. However, in the end, it seemed like she was really starving. Furthermore, she was feeling depressed, so she did not care about anything else and started eating in big mouthfuls. In the end, she accidentally choked and started coughing. When Bai saw the situation, she quickly handed over her wine gourd. Yuchensi received it and started drinking. She only stopped after taking a big gulp. Xiao Chun happened to turn around and saw this scene. His expression could not help but change. "It's over." Bai mistook the white wine for water and handed it to this girl. Putting down the wine gourd, Yuchensi's pretty face flushed red. She could not help but exhale. "Bai, what did you hand me?" "A good white wine." In the past, when Bai choked on it, she would be fine after drinking a few mouthfuls, Bai said seriously with a smile. "Wine." Yuchensi was startled. She said dizzily, "I can't drink." Right after she spoke, she collapsed. Xiao Bai quickly pulled her into her embrace and asked anxiously, "Elder brother Xiao Chen, what happened to elder sister Yu?" Xiao Chen stretched out his index finger and placed it under Yuchensi's nose for a while. He smiled gently and said, "She is fine, she is just drunk." "How did she get drunk?" Bai asked suspiciously. "That's strange. Elder sister Yu did not drink much. How did she get drunk?" There was nothing strange about that. Some people could hold their liquor well, and would not get drunk even after 1,000 cup. Some people could not hold their liquor well, and would get drunk after just one sip. It was clear that Yuchensi belonged to the latter group. It was good for her to sleep for a while. This girl was too tense because of the daybreak flower. Xiaochen said, "Take care of her. I will continue to keep an eye on the greedy dream wolf." The night slowly darkened. Unknowingly, it was already midnight. Xiao Chun had been keeping an eye on the greedy dream wolf for some time. Aside from the fact that the greedy dream wolf would occasionally close its eyes and sniff the air, there were no other surprises. Xiao Chun turned his head and looked at Yuchensi in Bai's arms. She was already in a deep sleep. Her eyes were closed and she was breathing rhythmically. She looked calm and serene. At this moment, it was hard to imagine that this beautiful girl in her sleep was the proud daughter of heaven that was pursued by tens of thousands of people in the great Jin nation. She was no different from an ordinary girl. This girl's martial prowess was 100 points, and her charm was also 100 points. However, her intelligence seemed to be slightly lacking. Her experience was also ridiculously lacking. It would be difficult for her to inherit the Supreme Sky sect like this, Xiao Chen thought to himself as he shook his head. After another 4 hours, Xiao Chen looked at the brightening sky and stretched out his hand to push Yuchensi, who was in Bai's arms. The moment Xiao Chen's finger touched the other party, Yuchensi immediately startled awake. A bright light flashed in her deep eyes. She revealed a murderous intent and was very alert. When Yuchensi saw that it was Xiao Chen, she relaxed her guard. She rubbed her temples and asked somewhat anxiously, "Did I oversleep?" Xiao Chen said indifferently, "No. Hurry up and get ready. The sun will rise in 10 minutes." Yuchensi was mildly startled. He quickly got up and circulated his energy to force out the alcohol in his body. After that, he went behind the huge rock and waited patiently. Time ticked by. The eastern horizon slowly started to brighten. Yuchensi slowly became anxious. He clenched his right hand tightly. Xiao Chun did not feel anything. He remained very calm. In terms of mental state, Yuchensi was still slightly inferior to Xiao Chun. Hu Qi. Suddenly, a dazzling light appeared in the eastern sky. The golden light was very eye-catching, breaking through the last trace of darkness before dawn. When it landed beside the greedy dream wolf, it suddenly reflected a resplendent flower. That flower seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. If it did not appear, no one would be able to find it. However, when it appeared, it attracted everyone's attention. It was extremely beautiful, making people unable to look away. The daybreak flower. It really is the daybreak flower. Yuchensi's fairy-like face smiled happily. It seemed even more beautiful than the dazzling and beautiful daybreak flower. Yuchensi said softly, the daybreak flower only appears for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes it will be impossible to find, no matter what we do. I will attract the greedy dream wolf's attention. You go pick the flower. After you pick the flower, attack the greedy dream wolf and save me from the illusion of the greedy dream wolf. Otherwise, if I stay in it for too long, I might not be able to get out. When Xiao Chen heard this, he smiled gently and said, You really trust me. If I take the daybreak flower and leave, you will not get anything and even lose your life. Yuchensi looked at the resplendent daybreak flower and said indifferently, The daybreak flower is useless to you. You are a smart person. You will not offend the strong Supreme Sky sect for something useless. That was indeed the case. It seemed that Yuchensi was not stupid. After looking at the greedy dream wolf, Xiao Chen said, One last question. How many people can the greedy dream wolf pull into the illusion? 1, Yuchensi said with absolute certainty. Bai, who had already woken up, said softly, Elder sister Bai wants to help too. Xiao Chen quickly rejected, telling them to just stay where they were. However, Yuchensi thought for a while and said, It seems like we do need one more person. If there is any sudden situation, Xiao Chen, you will deal with it. Then, let Bai pick the flower. Bai said happily, Elder brother Xiao Chen, let Bai participate. Bai can run very fast. There will not be any danger. The arrangement was very simple. There should not be any danger. Furthermore, it was just picking the flower. In the end, Xiao Chen agreed to let Bai participate. All right, let's go. Right after Yuchensi spoke, she immediately leaped into the air. When the morning sun shone on her exquisite figure, she looked even more beautiful. Morning Sun Fist. A light exploded on the tip of his fist. The extremely dense fist wind broke through the obstruction of space. It was like an intense cannonball, instantly striking the huge body of the greedy dream wolf. Bang! A bloody hole immediately appeared on the greedy dream wolf's body. Blood poured out like a fountain. Boom! 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 Yuchensi's movements did not stop. The tyrannical morning sun fist was like a machine gun, bombarding the greedy dream wolf relentlessly. Deep pits appeared on the ground. The greedy dream wolf had already reacted. It quickly ran on the ground, dodging the fist wind. Yuchensi chased closely. The greedy dream wolf turned around and spat out black energy balls to counterattack. One man and one wolf fought intensely on the ground. A peak rank 7 spirit beast's combat prowess was equal to a superior grade martial king. Yuchensi did not dare to be careless with its counterattack. Let's go! Seeing that the greedy dream wolf was lured away, Xiao Chen immediately led Bai towards the blooming daybreak flower. Just as the two of them were about to reach breaking dawn, the explosions that rang in their ears from time to time suddenly stopped. It was like time had stopped flowing. The intense battle had ended just like that. Xiao Chen turned his head and saw Yuchensi standing on the ground in a daze. A strange black light flickered in the pitch-black eyes of the greedy dream wolf opposite him. Yuchensi should be trapped in an illusion. He would not be in any danger for now. However, it would be hard to say for sure as time passed. Xiao Chen quickly turned his head and rushed towards the daybreak flower. He wanted to pick the daybreak flower and save Yuchensi from the illusion. 1. Just at this moment, just as Xiao Chen's hand was about to touch the daybreak flower, the surrounding world suddenly started spinning, giving off a hazy feeling. Xiao Chen felt a pair of eyes staring at him from behind. It was strangely enticing, forcing him to turn his head and look. Just as Xiao Chen was fighting against this force, Bai turned around in a daze. Xiao Chen was startled. He quickly said, Bai, close your eyes. As he spoke, a ripple appeared in his mind. He could not help but turn around to look as well. Xiao Chen saw that the greedy dream wolf's pitch-black eyes had turned silver. It was extremely attractive, making one unable to bear to close their eyes when they looked at it. Oh no, this is the king of the greedy dream wolves. Yuchensi's information must have been wrong. He can definitely drag many people into an illusion at the same time. The situation in front of Xiao Chen suddenly changed. Everything around him was pitch black. The clown felt an evil force trying to peer into the depths of his soul. He quickly used his spiritual sense and turned it into sharp blades, cutting off this evil force. Roar! Roar! A miserable shriek resounded in Xiao Chen's ears. The surrounding pitch-black scene suddenly changed. Xiao Chen opened his eyes and discovered that he was standing in the middle of a vast prairie. Countless scarlet eyes stared at him from all directions. Packs of demonic wolves paced the edges of the savanna like they were food on a plate, occasionally howling. Hu Qi! Hu Qi! In the next instant, the demonic wolves from all directions charged at Xiao Chen like a flood. Their howls rang out in the desolate savanna, shocking everyone. Ka Xie! Xiao Chen drew the lunar shadow saber and chopped. He chopped all the surrounding demonic wolves in half. Blood splattered everywhere, covering the sky. Chapter 389. Scarlet clouds filled the sky. Xiao Chen brought out the state of massacre to its limits, killing all the demonic wolves that pounced at him like a flood. His white robes were soon dyed red with blood. However, there were simply too many demonic wolves. It seemed like there was no end to them. No matter what he did, he could not kill them all. Time slowly went by. Xiao Chen slowly became bloodthirsty from all the killing. His eyes turned bloodshot, and he switched from holding his saber with one hand to holding it with both hands. Xiao Chen fought desperately in the pack of demonic wolves, moving in and out. Every time he swung his saber, it would leave a large pool of blood. He killed countless demonic wolves. As Xiao Chen slaughtered the demonic wolves, the scarlet throne in his sea of consciousness trembled in excitement. This made Xiao Chen feel carefree. Xiao Chen's entire body was filled with energy. He felt an inexplicable excitement from killing. The stimulated saber light became even more ferocious, and Xiao Chen killed with even more vigor. 1. Just as Xiao Chen was about to sink into the state of massacre, the lunar shadow saber suddenly lit up with a beam of light and shot at Xiao Chen's forehead. Xiao Chen's agitated heart immediately calmed down. It was like he had jumped into an icy river on a hot summer's day. His mind was now completely awake. Xiao Chen's eyes regained their clarity. He leaped up and dodged the attacks of the many demonic wolves. Fear appeared on his face as he said, "How dangerous! This illusion nearly made me sink into the state of massacre." Looking at the smooth mirror-like lunar shadow saber, Xiao Chen thought to himself, "It looks like Ao Jiao pulled me back at the crucial moment." Although this greedy dream wolf did not invade Xiao Chen's heart, it sensed the state of massacre that Xiao Chen cultivated. So, it set up an illusion that targeted the state of massacre to lure Xiao Chen into it. It looked like the greedy dream wolf's illusion was not as simple as creating an illusion that made it hard to distinguish between real and fake. Instead, it penetrated deep into the human heart, trying to make one sink into it. However, since Xiao Chen knew the principle behind it, it was easier to deal with. This is an illusion created based on the state of massacre. In that case, I will use the state of thunder to break it. Boom! The scarlet clouds in the sky scattered, and boundless thunderclouds rolled over. Occasionally, there would be the sound of thunder. Xiao Chen descended from the sky and started his massacre once again. However, this time, Xiao Chen did not use the state of massacre at all. He only used the purest state of thunder. Xiao Chen executed the Wukue saber to its peak in the desolate plain. The demonic wolves on the ground disappeared at a visible rate. After a while, Xiao Chen sheathed his saber. There were no longer any demonic wolves in the entire savanna. Thunder rumbled in the sky. Cracks started to appear in space. After a while, the entire space shattered. At this moment, with just a thought, Xiao Chen could leave this place. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. Indeed, it is as I expected. As long as I find the corresponding method, I will be able to break this illusion. However, there is no rush to leave. I still have to save Xiao Bai and Yu Chenxi. Of Xiao Chen's spiritual energy. Chen's spirit, Xiao spirits. Xiao. Xiao Chen did spirit. Xiao. A golden light flashed in the red dot on Xiao Chen's forehead. A golden deity appeared. It was about 1 meter tall, and held a sharp saber in its hand. This was the strongest form that Xiao Chen's spiritual sense could take. It could only appear in this illusion. If it were in reality, it would be difficult to bring out its full power. Break! Xiao Chen shouted and controlled the golden deity. It held the sharp saber in its hand and sliced through the air. Instantly, a long spatial crack appeared. Xiao Chen leaped up and brought his spiritual sense through the crack, entering another space. The scene in this space was very simple. It was just a wine cellar. There were piles of good wine on the ground and around it. Bai ran around excitedly. Occasionally, he would go to this bottle and take a sip. When he was tired of it, he would go to another bottle and drink. Xiao Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. How much did Bai love to drink? Perhaps the greedy dream wolf could not think of any other way to make Bai sink into intoxication. Xiao Chen stood in front of Bai. However, Bai did not notice him at all. With a slight movement, it pierced through Xiao Chen's body. It looks like I am just an outsider in this world, Xiao Chen thought to himself. If I use wine to make Bai sink into intoxication, then I can break this illusion without any wine to drink. Break! The deity swung out a sharp saber and shattered all the wine bottles in the wine cellar. This included the bottle in Bai's hand. Chi! Under Bai's suspicious gaze, the entire space started to shatter quickly. Bai and Xiao Chen arrived in an empty space. When Xiao Bai opened her eyes and saw Xiao Chen, the confused Xiao Bai immediately said joyfully, "Elder brother Xiao Chen, I had a dream earlier. I dreamed that there was a lot of good wine. I don't know who broke all the wine bottles, but I woke up." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Dreams will eventually wake up. Just stay here and don't move." Controlling the deity, Xiao Chen tore open the void again and flew towards Yu Chenxi's dream. Boom! The moment Xiao Chen landed, he saw a dazzling light. Countless fist images flashed in the light. The fist winds blew, causing countless people to vomit blood and retreat. When all the light scattered, Yu Chenxi stood proudly in a vast arena. The people lying below the arena were all disciples wearing the uniform of the Supreme Sky Sect. It looked like Yu Chenxi had already made it through. He no longer needed Xiao Chen's help. However, Yu Chenxi's complexion was extremely pale. Clearly, he had had a very unpleasant experience before this. It looked like this greedy dream wolf had penetrated deep into Yu Chenxi's heart. Seeing Xiao Chen land beside him, Yu Chenxi said apologetically, "I'm sorry. This greedy dream wolf is a king-grade spirit beast. I underestimated its strength." Xiao Chen said softly, "It's fine. Let's go out quickly. If we miss the time, we will have to wait another day for the daybreak flower." The two of them worked together to shatter this space. Then, they carried by and completely destroyed the greedy dream wolf's illusion. Xiao! The scene before them changed. The morning sun shone, and Qianren Island reappeared before the three. Before Xiao Chen could heave a sigh of relief, a huge shadow pounced at him. It was the greedy dream wolf that was pouncing over quickly. Ka-Xie! A saber light flashed. Xiao Chen brandished his lunar shadow saber and hacked at the other party's neck at lightning speed. Blood spurted out, but the saber did not manage to chop off the wolf's head. Instead, it left a horrifying wound stuck in the bone of the other party's neck, preventing it from advancing or retreating. Xiao Chen's expression changed slightly. He decisively abandoned his saber and retreated. However, the greedy dream wolf was even faster than Xiao Chen. In the instant that Xiao Chen hesitated, the greedy dream wolf's front claws stabbed into Xiao Chen's chest. The sharp claws pierced through the inner vest on Xiao Chen's chest. Then, the 5 claws stabbed towards Xiao Chen's heart. However, just as the claws were about to reach the heart, they met with a layer of obstruction. It was an inferior-grade secret treasure's defense against internal organs. Bang! Yuchensi did not give the greedy dreamwolf a chance to exert any more strength. He quickly flew over and punched the wolf's head. A dazzling golden light exploded from the fist wind, and the wolf's head immediately shattered. Yuchensi kicked away the greedy dreamwolf's corpse. When he saw the horrifying wound on Xiao Chen's chest, he asked anxiously, "Xiao Chen, are you all right?" Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. He endured the pain and smiled. "I did not injure my heart or lungs. I won't die. Go and pick your daybreak flower. If you don't, time will pass." Yuchensi did not say anything. He pressed on a few acupoints on Xiao Chen's chest. After he carefully examined the injuries, he heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao Chen left behind a bottle of good-quality recuperation medicine and rushed to the daybreak flower. When the daybreak flower's light dimmed, he dug it out, roots included. Bai helped Xiao Chen up. His eyes were bloodshot as he applied the recuperation medicine on Xiao Chen's wounds. When the cooling medicinal liquid dripped onto the wounds, Xiao Chen's pain immediately lessened. Xiao Chen swallowed a blood-replenishing pill and took out some bandages. With Bai's help, he started bandaging his wounds. In the past, when Xiao Chen was out on experiential training, Bai had helped him bandage his wounds. Thus, he was quite familiar with it and quickly finished bandaging his wounds. The wounds were really horrifying. When Xiao Chen thought about it, he felt some lingering fear. It could be said that he had just taken a trip to the gates of hell. If it were not for the secret treasure protecting his internal organs, the Wolf King's claws would have pierced through his heart. Xiao Chen struggled to get up and rubbed Bai's head. He smiled and said, "Don't look so red. It's fine now. Help me bring the lunar shadow saber over." Bai nodded and said, "All right, I'll go now." Yuchensi, who had just finished picking the daybreak flower, walked over. He thanked Xiao Chen sincerely. "Xiao Chen, thank you. If it were not for you, I would not have been able to obtain the daybreak flower." Xiao Chen looked around and said with a grave expression, "There's no need to say thank you. Let's go quickly. I feel that something is wrong with this Qianren Island." When Yuchensi heard this, he felt it was strange. He asked, "What's wrong?" "I was only gone for 5 minutes. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and said, "I was really gone for only 5 minutes? Use your perception and look around." Yuchensi closed his eyes and extended his perception. After a while, his expression changed slightly. The entire Qianren Island was silent. Furthermore, when Xiao Chen looked around, he could not see a single person on the island that had been bustling with people the previous night. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and said, "Stop thinking about it. Let's go and see if we can break through the huge waves first." 10 minutes later, the 3 of them appeared in front of a huge wave. Yuchensi executed the morning sun fist to its limit. Beams of light filled the air. However, the towering waves did not move at all. Instead, they bounced back with a strong force, nearly injuring Yuchensi. Yuchensi landed on the surface of the sea. He asked in astonishment, "What's going on?" "Before I came, I could break through the huge waves with a casual punch." Xiao Chen muttered to himself for a while before saying, "The strength of the huge waves has already returned to normal. It looks like we have been in the illusion for at least 5 days." In a desolate rock pile on Qianren Island, Yuchensi had a grave expression as he said, "The greedy Dream Wolf King's illusion can indeed change time. I think we have been in the illusion for a long time." Xiao Chen's expression had already calmed down. At this moment, he could already accept this fact. He smiled gently and said, "Stop guessing. Looking at the strength of the huge waves, I can already confirm this. It looks like we will have to stay on this Qianren Island for a period of time." Chapter 390. When Yuchensi saw Xiao Chen's calm expression, astonishment flashed on his face. "Xiao Chen, you do not seem worried at all. Xiao Chun found a rock to lean on and took out a spirit herb for treating injuries from the herb garden from the universe ring. Then, he took out a small knife and skinned it. He said, "There is no point in worrying. Even a martial monarch could not break through the huge wave. What can I do? I will just wait for another 2 years. I have enough medial-grade spirit stones to cultivate." To cultivators, the thing they should not be afraid of is loneliness. Some of those sages would be in closed-door cultivation for several years or even decades. So, when you think about it, it is not a big deal. After he skinned the spirit herb, Xiao Chen gently bit off a piece. Instantly, a dense medicinal energy flowed into his body. He used his essence to guide it, and the medicinal energy quickly flowed into the horrifying wound on his chest. ZZ. With the nourishment of the medicinal energy, the wound on Xiao Chen's chest gave off a numbing feeling. The festering flesh started wriggling and quickly formed a scar. The medicinal energy continued to permeate into his 2 broken ribs. New bones started to appear at the broken areas. Soon, they would be able to truly fuse back together. A 600-year-old jadeite needle fruit is indeed good stuff, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Just a small bite has such a huge effect. After I eat it, coupled with my physique, I should be able to recover in 1 night. After taking another bite of the jadeite needle fruit, Xiao Chen looked at Yu Chenxi and said, "Furthermore, I believe that you have a way to inform the Supreme Sky Sect. You might be able to leave earlier than I expected." Yu Chenxi was mildly startled. Xiao Chen had guessed correctly. He really had a way to inform the Supreme Sky Sect. Hence, she was not too worried. However, when Yu Chenxi saw Xiao Chen's calm and unconcerned expression and how he was even eating and talking to her at the same time, Yu Chenxi felt somewhat displeased. With a flip of his palm, a wound appeared on his palm. A small white bird slowly came out of his palm. Soon, its entire body came out and stood on his palm. The white bird was about the size of a sparrow. Rather than calling it white, it was more like an illusory color. As it stood on his palm, it looked like it had merged with the air. It was faintly discernible and looked very blurry. Xiao Chen asked doubtfully, "What is this?" Yu Chenxi smiled and said, "This is a hummingbird. Every disciple of the Supreme Sky Sect brings one with them when they go out on experiential training. Its body exists between reality and illusion. No barrier can stop it. With this message, the Supreme Sky Sect will send an expert to bring us out in 3 months at the latest." After Yu Chenxi wrote a piece of paper, she stuffed it into the hummingbird's mouth and tossed it high into the air. In the blink of an eye, the hummingbird flew a few hundred meters. Before the two's eyes, the hummingbird mysteriously passed through the obstruction of the huge waves and disappeared from their sight. Xiao Chen looked at the huge waves in the distance and muttered to himself, "Martial monarchs will not be able to break through these huge waves unless a martial sage comes. Even a martial sage will make a move for her." It looks like Yu Chenxi's position in the Supreme Sky Sect is not as simple as an ordinary genius disciple. Yu Chenxi slowly withdrew his gaze and looked at Xiao Chen. He said, "No matter what, it is all thanks to you that I managed to obtain the daybreak flower this time. I, Yu Chenxi, owe you a favor." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not say anything. 3 days later, with the help of the jadeite needle fruit, the wound on Xiao Chen's chest had completely healed. This kind of injury, which did not injure his internal organs, heart or lungs, was no longer a threat to Xiao Chen's current physique. Even without the assistance of spirit herbs, he would recover in less than 10 days. With Bai's help, Xiao Chen removed the bandages. Secret treasures had the ability to recover automatically. The clear wind robes and the inferior-grade inner vest were already as good as new. However, the spiritual energy they contained had decreased, and their lifespan had decreased as well. After tossing away the bandages, Xiao Chen prepared to take inventory of the burial items that the Savannah King had left behind. The burial items of a future Emperor Wu would definitely be good. Coincidentally, Chensi had decided to absorb the energy of the daybreak flower to comprehend the morning sun incantation. Xiao Qin gave Xiao Qin some private space. There were 8 burial items of various sizes that the Savannah King had left behind. In this fortuitous encounter on Qianren Island, hundreds and thousands of cultivators would be very satisfied with just one burial item. If they knew that Xiao Qin had snatched all of them away, what kind of expression would they have? Xiao Qin tossed out the 8 burial items from his spatial ring in one go. He tossed them all to the ground and started to take inventory with an excited expression on his face. Among the 8 burial items, there were 3 secret manuals and 3 secret treasures. There were also 2 things that Xiao Qin could not figure out. Xiao Qin was most interested in secret manuals. He immediately picked up a secret manual and flipped through it. He read softly, Flowing Light Sword Art, a peak earth-ranked cultivation technique for swordsmen. There is a total of 15 layers. After reaching great perfection, it will allow the swordsman's dantian to produce a continuous stream of sword qi. This was a supreme cultivation technique for swordsmen. It could allow a swordsman to produce sword qi in their body. Xiao Qin had never heard of it before. He thought that it should be extraordinary. Furthermore, it was a cultivation technique tailored for swordsmen. Its value was immeasurable. To a swordsman, it was probably even better than an inferior-grade heaven-ranked cultivation technique. Unfortunately, Xiao Qin was a bladesman. A bladesman and a swordsman were 2 different branches. He could not practice it. If only it were a saber art. Although the Purple Thunder Divine incantation was strong, it was not tailored for bladesmen. It could not produce saber qi in the body. Xiao Qin felt somewhat disappointed. He casually handed the Flowing Light Sword Art to Bai. He smiled and said, Bai, this is for you. When you have nothing to do, take a good look at it. Bai received the Flowing Light Sword Art and smiled gently. Thank you, elder brother Xiao Qin. Bai is going to become even more powerful. Xiao Qin picked up the second secret manual and flipped through it again. When he saw the words on the cover, he slowly read, Firmament Body Tempering Art, Inferior Grade Heaven-Ranked Body Tempering Secret Manual. One's vital qi needs to reach 150,000 kilograms of force in order to cultivate it. This is an ancient sect. Xiao Qin's face lit up in joy. There was finally a secret manual for him to use. The Dragon and Tiger Body Tempering Art was only a peak Earth-ranked body tempering secret technique. After Xiao Qin cultivated Dragon Tendon Tiger Bone, his strength reached 250,000 kilograms of force. There was no longer any possibility of improving it. Coincidentally, the Firmament Body Tempering Art could be used by Xiao Qin. As long as he could cultivate 25,000 kilograms of force, he would be able to cultivate it. With the help of the many body-tempering spirit herbs in his ring, this would not be difficult. Xiao Qin sorted out his emotions and continued reading. There were some notes and notes written by the Savannah King at the bottom of the cover. Only now did Xiao Qin discover that the Savannah King was a cultivator who specialized in tempering the physical body and became a martial sage. It turned out that when the Savannah King was young, his cultivation and talent were very poor. His cultivation of essence had been very slow. He barely managed to become an inferior-grade martial saint at the age of 30. Such talent would not even cause a ripple in the Tianwu continent. However, the proud Savannah King was extremely dissatisfied. Later on, the Savannah King had a fortuitous encounter and obtained this firmament body tempering art. After that, he made up his mind to cripple his cultivation and cultivate his physical body, using strength to prove his Tao. The firmament body tempering art was a body tempering cultivation technique of a mysterious sect in the ancient era. The outer disciples of that legendary sect could easily achieve more than 50,000 kilograms of force with a punch. The inner disciples could achieve more than 150,000 kilograms of force with a punch. As for the inner disciples, core disciples, and outer elders, they could achieve more than 500,000 kilograms of force with a casual punch. When they kicked out, the horrifying force would allow them to leap a kilometer in an instant. Furthermore, they specialized in vital qi. The sect had many martial techniques that used vital qi. The effects of using vital qi were no weaker than using essence. Xiao Chen closed the secret manual and muttered, "I did not expect there to be such a glorious sect in the past. A casual punch could achieve more than 500,000 kilograms of force. Even a martial monarch would not dare to receive it head-on. It looks like choosing to temper the physical body was the right choice." After putting away the secret manual, Xiao Chen started to look at the third secret manual. He discovered that the third secret manual was a body-tempering cultivation technique that the Savannah King left behind. The cultivation experience of a half-step Emperor Wu. This is more precious than any cultivation technique or martial technique. For a long time, I have not had a true master to guide me. This cultivation experience can be considered as half a master. Xiao Chen could no longer contain his joy. He said this excitedly as he put away the Savannah King's cultivation experience. Then, he continued to look at the remaining burial items. There were 3 extraordinary secret treasures. Among the 3 secret treasures, Xiao Chen casually picked up the jade pendant. He discovered that it was similar to the jade pendant around his neck. It was also a defensive secret treasure. However, its defense was much stronger. Based on the spiritual energy fluctuations, it should be a peak inferior grade secret treasure. Xiao Chen thought for a while before handing the jade pendant to Bai. He already had a similar jade pendant, so there was no need to do so. Xiao Chen picked up the second secret treasure. It was a small sword the size of a palm. The blade was forged from an unknown metal. There were many talisman scripts carved on it. The spiritual energy on the sword was very dense, much denser than that of the jade pendant. The blade was very sharp as well. Xiao Chen checked it and discovered that it was actually an inferior grade medial grade secret treasure. Xiao Chen did not know what use this small sword had. He removed the spiritual sense left behind by the predecessor and branded it with his own mark. Xiao. When Xiao Chen's spiritual sense filled the sword, the small sword in his palm made a cut on his palm with a so sound. Then, it slowly merged into his palm. Xiao Chen did not feel any discomfort. When the sword merged into his palm, it felt like it was part of his flesh and blood, a part of his body. It was just that it had returned to him at this moment. When the sword completely entered his palm, the wound on his palm immediately healed. His skin glowed white, there was nothing wrong with it. However, Xiao Chen suddenly felt a surging and strong energy leaping about in his right palm. This energy did not belong to him, but he could easily control it. With just a thought, Xiao Chen could easily release it. He stood up and looked at a mountain in the distance. Then, Xiao Chen raised 2 fingers on his right hand and pointed forward. Xiao! The small sword in Xiao Chen's palm carried a horrifying energy as it burst out of his fingers and shot towards the mountain a kilometer away. Chapter 391. Boom! 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 The instant the small sword left his body, Xiao Chen heard half of the mountain shatter. From the waist up, the 1,000-meter-tall mountain seemed to have completely shattered. One. However, it was not over yet. Suddenly, countless cracks appeared in the remaining half of the mountain. Countless rocks fell down. After a short while, the remaining half of the mountain was completely shattered. The 1,000-meter-tall mountain had actually been blasted to the ground by the small sword. Xiao Chen was dumbfounded as he watched all this. He had not expected the small sword to be so mighty. He muttered, "Is this the might of a medial-grade offensive secret treasure? If caught off guard, it might even be able to kill a half-step martial monarch in an instant." The small sword whistled through the air. It no longer had any luster, looking very illusory. Then, it flew back to Xiao Chen's palm. Strands of weak essence flowed from Xiao Chen's body to his palm, slowly charging this small sword. It looked like it would be impossible for the small sword to recover its previous strength in a short period. However, since it was so mighty, Xiao Chen did not need the small sword to attack continuously. This small sword can be considered my true trump card. I have to give it a name. Let's call it the palm sword, Xiao Chen said softly. He casually chose a more realistic name. The smile on his face did not fade for a long time. The might of the palm sword was simply too great. This was the first time Xiao Chen had the confidence to fight against half-step martial monarchs. He could not help but be happy. There was still one last secret treasure. However, it gave Xiao Chen a headache. It was a heavy black helmet. Clearly, it was a defensive medial-grade secret treasure. Xiao Chen weighed the helmet in his hand. When he saw the two horns on the helmet, he immediately lost interest. Not to mention its appearance, just the weight of this helmet was more than 100 kilograms. Unless one was a heavy armored knight on the battlefield or a barbarian warrior, no one would have a good impression of this helmet, no matter how strong its defense was. Casually tossing the helmet into the universe ring, Xiao Chen looked at the last two items. They were the same. It was a bright pearl. The light from the pearl was neither dim nor dazzling. It was very moderate. Xiao Chen sensed a vast and pure yuan energy that made his heart palpitate. His intuition told him that this was a great Tao. Among the funerary objects of the Savannah King, these two pearls were definitely the most valuable. Even a few secret treasures and secret manuals combined would not be as valuable as these pearls. However, the depressing thing was that Xiao Chen's knowledge was limited. He did not know what it was, so he could only toss it into a corner of his universe ring. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, in a secluded corner of the Qianren Island, a peak that was also 3,000 meters tall began to crack. That mountain was so huge that when it shattered, it kept shaking. Even the ground was shaking slightly. Huge waves surged on the surface of the sea around Qianren Island, rolling up and down continuously. Xiao Chen looked over and saw a dazzling golden light in the distance. Countless tyrannical fist winds exploded. The 1,000-meter-tall mountain shrank at a visible rate under the frenzied fist winds. 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches, 4 punches, 10 punches. After 10 punches, the 3,000-meter-tall mountain was mostly shaved off. All that was left was a bare mound. When the light scattered, Yu Chenxi's figure slowly appeared. Then, he landed firmly on the ground. Xiao Chen had to use a secret treasure to flatten a mountain. However, Yu Chenxi relied on his tyrannical strength to blast away most of the mountain. This gap was rather large. Furthermore, Yu Chenxi was not the peak genius of this continent. In the previous 5-nation youth competition, he was only ranked in the top 50. This made Xiao Chen feel a chill in his heart. If Yu Chenxi was already so strong, how strong would the top 10 geniuses be? Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and entered deep thought. He said softly, "There is still more than a year until the next 5-nation youth competition. I might have time to try it out." Xiao Chen had never doubted his talent. He also did not think that he was weaker than others. All he lacked was time. Compared to those peak geniuses, Xiao Chen had started too late. Even though he was trying so hard to catch up, he still had a large gap in cultivation. After Yu Chenxi obtained the Daybreak Flower, it should not be surprising for her to break through to superior grade Martial King. Furthermore, this Yu Chenxi was younger than Xiao Chen. If she already had such a cultivation, then wouldn't the other geniuses be peak superior grade Martial Kings or half-step Martial Monarchs? I have to advance to Martial King quickly. Xiao Chen felt a sense of urgency in his heart. This fortuitous encounter on Qianren Island is a great opportunity for me to catch up. After giving instructions to Bai, Xiao Chen found a desolate place on the island. He planned to enter closed-door cultivation for real. Xiao Chen took out the spirit herbs that could increase cultivation from the universe ring. He counted them carefully and found a total of 28 stalks. They were all 500-year-old and above spirit herbs. Xiao Chen was not in a rush to consume these spirit herbs. Instead, he continued to consolidate his cultivation as a superior grade martial saint. He nurtured the qi whirlpool in his dantian, building a dam to prevent the flood from happening. After cultivating for 7 days, Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes. He had already stabilized his cultivation as a superior grade martial saint. The purple qi whirlpool was also nurtured until it was very resilient. The qi whirlpool should be able to endure it now. It is time to consume these spirit herbs that can increase cultivation. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and chose a 500-year-old snow ginseng from the pile of spirit herbs in front of him. If a 500-year-old snow ginseng could completely absorb its medicinal energy, theoretically, it could increase a cultivator's attack power by 10 years. However, not many people knew the correct way to consume the snow ginseng. It was very difficult to ensure that the medicinal energy would not leak out during the process. Hence, it was difficult to achieve the effect of 10 years of cultivation. Normally, it would be pretty good to have 6 or 7 years of cultivation. 8 years of cultivation would be the peak. 9 years of cultivation would be extremely lucky. However, the Compendium of Cultivation had detailed records of these spirit herbs. Xiao Chen knew how to consume this snow ginseng. Xiao Chen held the snow ginseng in his hand and observed it for a while. Compared to regular ginseng, the snow ginseng was much stronger than ordinary ginseng. Compared to a regular ginseng, the snow ginseng was covered in a layer of frost. When he held it in his hand, he could feel a bone-chilling cold. Furthermore, it was much larger than regular ginseng. Xiao Chen held the snow ginseng with one hand and heated it up slightly. The frost on the surface of the snow ginseng melted into liquid and seeped into the snow ginseng. This frost was the essence of the snow ginseng. Many people did not know this and lost a large portion of the snow ginseng's medicinal energy. Finally, Xiao Chen infused his essence into the snow ginseng and mixed it with the frost liquid. Xiao Chen's movements were very gentle and careful. As long as he damaged the skin of the snow ginseng, all the medicinal energy would immediately leak out. 10 minutes later, the insides of the snow ginseng had completely melted. It looked like the skin of the snow ginseng was wrapped in clear liquid. It was very plump and soft. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and placed the root of the snow ginseng into his mouth. Then, he used his teeth to bite off a root. Qi, qi. The snow ginseng filled to the brim with spirit herb liquid found an outlet. Immediately, it gushed into Xiao Chen's mouth like a gushing fountain. The medicinal liquid was cool and crisp. A fragrance assaulted the nose. It was incomparably delicious. Xiao Chen's entire mouth was filled with this fragrance. All the medicinal energy was absorbed by Xiao Chen. Boom! The surging medicinal energy flowed down his throat and quickly poured into Xiao Chen's body. It was like a gushing river, surging through his meridians. Xiao Chen's narrow meridians were filled to the brim with medicinal energy. Every time the medicinal energy flowed, he felt some pain. Xiao Chen clenched his teeth and endured bitterly. Fortunately, Xiao Chen's physical body was at small perfection. He had dragon tendons and tiger bones. His meridians were much stronger than those of regular cultivators. If other cultivators consumed this snow ginseng, they would not dare to swallow it all in one go like Xiao Chen. Otherwise, there was a high chance that they would explode. The vast medicinal energy circulated through Xiao Chen's meridians. The energy became increasingly ferocious and surging. Finally, it rushed towards the purple qi whirlpool in his dantian. Bang! Bang! The qi whirlpool was like a dam welcoming a ferocious flood. As the flood crashed into it, loud sounds came from Xiao Chen's body. Under this intense shock, his internal organs trembled. Xiao Chen's complexion paled as he felt intense pain. The vast medicinal energy crashed into the purple qi whirlpool continuously. The resilient Qi whirlpool seemed like it could collapse at any moment. Although Shao Chun had expected the medicinal energy to be vast, when he truly faced it, the medicinal energy of the 500-year-old snow ginseng still surpassed his expectations. The space inside the Qi whirlpool was already filled with medicinal energy. Furthermore, there was still a lot of medicinal energy pouring into the meridians outside. The situation was dire. If he could not digest this medicinal energy, the Qi whirlpool might burst. Maintaining his calm, Shao Chun slowly circulated the purple thunder divine incantation. The Qi whirlpool started spinning slowly under the control of his thoughts. Although the speed was not fast, the Qi whirlpool finally moved. Immediately, a large amount of medicinal energy was absorbed by the Qi whirlpool, making it even more resilient. Xiao! Xiao! As the Qi whirlpool absorbed the medicinal energy, the purple Qi whirlpool spun faster. In the end, it was as fast as when Shao Chun cultivated. Only now did Shao Chun heave a sigh of relief. His earlier efforts were not in vain. Otherwise, the purple Qi whirlpool would have collapsed under the impact of the medicinal energy. As the Qi whirlpool spun faster, the absorption of the medicinal energy became faster as well. Shao Chun could clearly feel his strength increasing continuously. All the pores in Shao Chun's body opened up, and a huge energy spread throughout his body. Even his blood could not help but surge. A 500-year-old snow ginseng could increase a cultivator's cultivation by 10 years after consuming it. It was impossible to digest all the medicinal energy in one go. In the end, it stabilized. On the contrary, Shao Chun took the initiative to slow down the rate of absorption. Stability was the most important thing. The faster his cultivation realm rose, the more stable he had to be. After a total of 7 days, Shao Chun finally completely refined the medicinal energy of the snow ginseng. Shao Chun opened his eyes, and 2 purple lights flashed in them. His pitch-black pupils became even more profound, unfathomable. Chapter 392. Shao Chun casually tossed aside the snow ginseng skin in his hand, and took out another 500-year-old spirit herb. He muttered, "This is the 100-spirit fruit. Its effects are much weaker than the snow ginseng. It can only increase my cultivation by 5 years. However, 5 years is already pretty good." After consuming the snow ginseng, Shao Chun's Qi whirlpool had grown several times larger. The amount of essence it could contain had increased by 50%. Furthermore, with his previous experience, consuming and digesting the 100-spirit fruit was not as dangerous as before. 2 days later, Shao Chun completely absorbed it. In the following month, Shao Chun consumed natural treasures that increased his cultivation. The amount of essence in his body had already increased to a horrifying level. Shao Chun's current essence was comparable to that of a medial-grade martial king. If he consumed all the spirit herbs, his essence would surpass that of a medial-grade martial king and rival that of a superior-grade martial king. After 1 month, Shao Chun held the final 500-year-old spirit herb in his hand. He frowned slightly and said softly, "Toward the end, the effects of this spirit herb are getting worse. Originally, this spirit herb could increase my cultivation by 10 years. Now it can't even reach 5 years. This was a problem of resistance to spirit herbs. Shao Chun had encountered this before in the underground world. Because he had consumed too many spirit herbs, he had developed a strong resistance. Unless Shao Chun found spirit herbs older than 1,000 years, it would be difficult for his cultivation to increase explosively. Spirit herbs younger than 1,000 years were no longer of much use to him. Shao Chun collected his thoughts and smiled faintly. "I should be satisfied. Now, my total essence is close to that of a superior-grade martial king. Once I advance to martial king, the quality of my essence will increase significantly. At that time, those cultivators who have been martial kings for many years will not have much of an advantage over me." After consuming the final spirit herb, Xiao Chen used only half a day to completely digest the medicinal energy. After another week, with the support of a vast amount of essence, Xiao Chen naturally advanced to peak superior grade martial saint without any obstructions. As Xiao Chen's cultivation advanced, the number of minor meridians in his body expanded significantly. Now, there were only 2 minor meridians left for the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 6th layer. It was time to break open the other 2 minor meridians and gain the ability to cultivate the 6th layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. At that time, his cultivation realm and cultivation technique would advance at the same time. When a martial artist was breaking through a major realm, it would take a long time. This was because the advancement of a great realm often required not only the support of sufficient yuan qi, but also a trace of opportunity. Without the right opportunity, one would always be infinitely close to becoming a martial king. Lu Riyue had once told Xiao Chen all her valuable experiences of advancing to martial king. Thus, Xiao Chen deeply understood the importance of opportunities. Fortunately, he had the heaven-ranked cultivation technique, the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation. The advancement of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation could be considered an opportunity. After staying at peak martial saint for 2 days, Xiao Chen made all his preparations. He started to try to open the 2 minor meridians. The pure and vast lightning-attributed essence formed a small cycle in the 9 major meridians in his body. Then, it slowly followed the complicated minor meridians and made a large cycle. Xiao Chen was not in a rush to return this essence to his dantian. He stopped the essence in the middle of a major meridian. There were countless minor meridians around this major meridian, spreading out like tree branches. Xiao Chen found the tightly shut minor meridian and ground the essence into a sharp awl. Then, he slowly pierced it in. See! The minor meridian had just opened a little when Xiao Chen felt a heart-wrenching pain. He could not help but take in a deep breath of cold air. However, Xiao Chen did not stop. Pain was unavoidable when he forcefully opened a minor meridian. Xiao Chen had already made preparations for this long ago. The minor meridian opened bit by bit. The intense pain caused the veins on Xiao Chen's forehead to bulge. Beads of sweat flowed continuously. After working hard for a night, he finally managed to open a 10th of this minor meridian. After resting for a while, Xiao Chen continued to work without stopping. Xiao Chen did not have much time. Compared to the other genius cultivators, he had started much later. The difference in their cultivations had already left him far behind. Xiao Chen needed time more than anyone else. The gains from this fortuitous encounter only slightly narrowed the gap between them. After all, those genius cultivators all had the backing of a large sect. They did not lack spirit pills, miraculous medicines, or natural treasures. Even if it was painful, arduous, or dangerous, Xiao Chen had to persevere. He could not afford to slack off. After half a month, with Xiao Chen's hard work, he finally managed to open these 2 minor meridians. The newly formed minor meridians were too weak. They were not suitable for the flow of essence and could not be used for cultivation. However, Xiao Chen had made preparations long ago. Previously, he had picked several kinds of good spirit herbs for nourishing the meridians in the herb garden. After another 7 days, with the nourishment of the spirit herbs, Xiao Chen's 2 newly formed minor meridians were no different from the other minor meridians. He could now cultivate normally. The moon was as round as a plate, hanging high in the night sky. It shone down a quiet radiance. Xiao Chen slowly got up from the stone block and looked at the bright moon in the sky. Then, he took out a golden spirit core from the universe ring. This golden spirit core the size of a basketball was the one he had killed in Savage Forest. It was the Golden Lion King with the bloodline of an ancient mutated beast. Xiao Chen still felt that he was lacking something to advance to Martial King until he remembered the spirit core of the Golden Lion King. Only now did Xiao Chen realize that he still lacked an extremely strong external force. When he cultivated the purple thunder divine incantation to the 6th layer, he would be able to use it together with the essence in his body to break through to Martial King in one go. The golden spirit core that had been lying dormant in Xiao Chen's hand for more than a year was finally going to be put to good use. Advancing from superior grade Martial Saint to Martial King within 3 months was as difficult as ascending to heaven. Most people would not even dare to think about it. However, Xiao Chen wanted to give it a try. When he felt the incomparably pure energy in the golden spirit core, he said indifferently, "I prepared for more than 2 months. I used spirit herbs to increase my strength, suffered a lot, and forcefully opened my minor meridians. All these were for this day." Xiao Chen could only succeed. He could not afford to fail. Compared to those geniuses who had a sect backing them and a peak master, he did not have the capital to fail. Once he failed, he would forever lose the chance to catch up. The moon was round and full, the night was deep and quiet. Xiao Chen found a place with relatively dense spiritual energy in the surroundings. He sat cross-legged on a huge rock. He crossed his hands, and the golden spirit core the size of a basketball floated quietly above his palms. The spiritual energy in the spirit core floated around, but it did not scatter. It was being guided by Xiao Chen's spiritual sense. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and slowly spat out a mouthful of white qi. This qi was like a sword and did not scatter for a long time. Success or failure, it all depended on this moment. When everything was ready, Xiao Chen closed his eyes resolutely. The huge qi whirlpool in his dantian spun quickly. Xiao Chen silently circulated the purple thunder divine incantation's 6th layer. The surrounding lightning-attributed spiritual energy quickly poured into his body. It flowed through his pores and into his meridians before returning to his dantian. Dida, dida, dida. The lightning-attributed essence liquid quickly formed and dripped into the purple qi whirlpool. The purple qi whirlpool was quickly filled with lightning-attributed energy. This was the first step of cultivating the purple thunder divine incantation, condensing qi. It absorbed all the lightning-attributed spiritual energy into the dantian. However, it was not just absorbing it. It also had to be refined continuously, turning the spiritual energy into even purer essence. The purple liquid in the qi whirlpool also spun quickly. Xiao Chen was now using the secret technique of the 6th layer to refine spiritual energy. Hence, the speed was much faster than usual. Qi, qi. As the cyclone rotated inside and outside at the same time, countless electric currents appeared out of nowhere in the surrounding air, crackling and flashing nonstop. In the dark night, it was like a tiny bolt of lightning flashing by. It illuminated Xiao Chen's face occasionally with a purple light. Boom! Suddenly, the 2 whirlpools stopped spinning at the same time. The purple liquid in the qi whirlpool exploded, and its color became even denser. However, the amount decreased by about half. Originally, the spiritual energy could fill the entire qi whirlpool. Now, only a small portion was left. This was because all the spiritual energy in the surroundings had been converted into essence. The time required for this was twice as fast as before. The purple thunder divine incantation's 6th layer is indeed powerful, Xiao Chen thought joyfully. If this is the case, my cultivation speed will be doubled in the future. However, this was only a small success. Next, he had to complete a minor cycle and a major cycle, completing an internal and external cycle. Only then would he be able to advance the purple thunder divine incantation's 5th layer to the 6th layer. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and continued to circulate the purple thunder divine incantation. The dense purple liquid in the qi whirlpool quickly surged out, heading for the 9 major meridians in his body. Hoo! The pure and dense essence flowed quickly in the 9 major meridians. It was like a wild horse that had broken free of its reins. Xiao Chen found it hard to control it. What a fast speed! Xiao Chen was startled. The faster the speed, the higher the efficiency of his cultivation. This made Xiao Chen feel even more anticipation for the Purple Thunder Divine Incantations' 6th layer. However, at this moment, Xiao Chen had to be even more careful. If the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation broke free of his control, this breakthrough would end in failure. No matter what, the first minor cycle had to be completed successfully. Otherwise, the subsequent major cycles would be even faster. If he could not even handle a minor cycle, then he would not be able to control a major cycle. Xiao Chen sank his consciousness into it. His will was like a rein, firmly controlling this wild horse, not letting it break free of his control. Under Xiao Chen's control, the minor cycle finally completed a cycle with some difficulty. Boom! 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 When the essence returned to the Qi whirlpool, the Qi whirlpool started to circulate once again. A huge electric whirlpool appeared in the sky above Xiao Chen's head. That electric whirlpool did not circulate for now. It only appeared in the night sky. Lightning flashed and thunder roared around it, illuminating the entire Qianren Island's night sky. Yu Chenxi, who was chatting with Bai, noticed the strange changes in the sky. His expression immediately changed. He muttered, "This is a mysterious phenomenon. A mysterious phenomenon will only appear when a heaven-ranked cultivation technique advances. Could it be that Xiao Chen cultivates a heaven-ranked cultivation technique?" Chapter 393. When Bai saw the electric whirlpool that appeared out of nowhere, a grave expression appeared on her cute face. She was no longer the little spirit fox that did not know anything. Now that she had successfully transformed, she had started cultivating. Such a huge, mysterious phenomenon would definitely be accompanied by great danger. She could not help but ask worriedly, "Elder Sister Yu, will elder brother Xiao Chen be fine? Should we go and take a look?" Yu Chenxi looked at Bai's charming face and thought to himself, "This Xiao Chen is really lucky. He has a bad temper, but he still has a pretty girl following him so loyally. Bai, don't worry. He is now at a critical juncture. If we get too close, it will not be good for him. I believe he will succeed," Yu Chenxi said with a gentle smile. When Bai heard this, she nodded her head and said, "Bai believes that elder brother Xiao Chen will succeed as well." The mysterious phenomenon outside did not affect Xiao Chen at all. He was currently focused on the Qi whirlpool. Originally, there was only a small portion of the purple liquid. After one small cycle, it quickly grew to half. With the help of the spirit herbs, Xiao Chen's essence base was already very vast. Now, with just one small cycle, it was like the Qi whirlpool was filled to half. This made Xiao Chen very excited. A small cycle is already so powerful. I wonder what a great cycle will be like, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Then, he controlled his essence to make a great cycle. This was the most crucial step in his breakthrough. Hu Qi. Hu Qi. As he circulated his mental energy, the essence liquid in the Qi whirlpool shot out. It was so fast that Xiao Chen could not react in time. If the previous small cycle was like a wild horse, then it was like a sports car. It was on a completely different level. This is not good. If this continues, I will not be able to control the flow of essence. When the essence becomes chaotic, not only will my breakthrough fail, but it will also result in serious internal injuries. Xiao Chen's expression changed greatly as he thought to himself in fear. It was like a person who had been driving a carriage all year round was suddenly given a sports car. After getting used to the speed of the carriage, it would be very difficult to control the speed of the sports car. Calm down, I must calm down at this time. Xiao Chen's extraordinary state of mind finally worked again at this time. His frightened and uneasy heart quickly calmed down. Xiao Chen's mind suddenly lit up. He calmed down and finally thought of a way to deal with it. Actually, he had been thinking in the wrong direction from the start. It was simply impossible to suddenly control this surging essence. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 5th layer was completely different from the 6th layer. With such a huge leap, Xiao Chen believed that no one could grasp it in one go. If that was the case, Wouldn't it mean that no one could cultivate the sixth layer of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation? Obviously, that was not the case. What he needed to do now was not to completely control the flying vital energy, but to control the direction of its flow. He allowed it to smoothly follow the route of the sixth layer and complete a great cycle. Given this, Shao Chun suddenly felt enlightened. Every time his essence soared, he would not be able to withstand it. Every time the essence was about to go down the wrong path, his will would turn into a gentle force and push it back to the right path. However, while it sounded simple, it was actually very difficult. This was because the speed at which the essence circulated was simply too fast. If he wanted to grasp the right timing every time, it would be very taxing on his mind. He could not afford to be careless. Rumble! When the essence completed a great cycle, the huge electric whirlpool above Shao Chen's head also started spinning quickly, sucking in all the lightning-attributed spiritual energy within a kilometer. Lightning flashed and clouds churned for a kilometer. The flickering electric light illuminated the sky above Qianren Island like it was daytime. Under Shao Chen's careful control, a great cycle was almost completed. During this time, the essence nearly went through the wrong meridian several times. However, Shao Chen managed to pull it back in advance. Shao Chen felt his heart beating several times faster than usual. The process was simply too dangerous. Bang! The essence finally gathered in the dantian and exploded in the qi whirlpool. The surging essence liquid fluctuated for a long time before it stopped. The purple liquid slowly piled up, and soon the qi whirlpool was filled to the brim. Shao Chen felt a swelling sensation. After the purple liquid filled the qi whirlpool to the brim, it actually forcefully expanded the qi whirlpool. The Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's sixth layer, completed. Shao Chen thought excitedly in his heart. Then, he opened his eyes and two beams of purple light flashed in the night sky, illuminating everything within a kilometer. Before Shao Chen could react, the horrifying electric whirlpool in the sky entered his right eye with a "so" sound. This sudden change stunned Shao Chen. However, he did not panic. This was because the Purple Thunder True Fire had absorbed all the energy in the whirlpool, not leaving a single drop behind. Shao Chen was not in a rush to test the might of the Purple Thunder True Fire. He closed his eyes again and continued to circulate the qi whirlpool. The golden spirit core in his palm spun quickly. The pure and vast golden spiritual energy, which was even stronger than a superior-grade spirit stone, was being absorbed by Shao Chen. The golden spirit core shrank at a visible rate. Shao Chen absorbed all the spiritual energy in one go. He wanted to make use of this final external force to break through the restraints of a martial saint in one go and become a martial king. When Yu Chenxi saw the whirlpool disappear from a distance, he heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that Shao Chen's cultivation technique had advanced successfully. However, his expression turned grave after that. A strong aura came from Shao Chen's body. That energy was extremely vast, and it was still rising continuously. Yu Chenxi frowned slightly and said sullenly, "Could this fellow be thinking of using this opportunity to break through to Martial King? This is too crazy." As the golden energy continued to pour in, the energy gathered in his dantian became stronger. Shao Chen could clearly feel the barrier in front of this energy. This is the final hurdle to breaking through to Martial King. I have to break through it in one go and shatter it. No one can stop me from advancing to Martial King. Shao Chen thought to himself and increased the speed at which he absorbed the golden spirit core. Break! When the golden spirit core was completely absorbed, Shao Chen shouted loudly. He used this tyrannical energy to circulate all the essence in his body and charge at the barrier. Ka-cie! A crisp sound came from Shao Chen's body. The barrier in front of Martial Saint was completely broken through without any obstruction. A huge energy instantly filled his entire body. Suddenly, Shao Chen's body soared into the air. He was truly flying. He did not use the gravity spell to fly. Xiao Chen opened his eyes. His face was filled with joy. After 2 months of hard work and countless hardships, he finally stepped into the martial king realm after putting his life on the line. Roar! Xiao Chen's qi and blood surged. It was like he had an inexhaustible amount of energy. Even his blood seemed to be burning. Is this the strength of a martial king? Feeling agitated, Xiao Chen could not help but let out a long roar. His roar was like thunder, reverberating around Xianren Island for a long time. He actually succeeded. Yu Chenxi's eyes were filled with astonishment. In 2 months, Xiao Chen broke through from superior-grade martial saint to martial king. Ordinary people might not be able to achieve this in their entire lives. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen used only 2 months to do so. If news of this were to spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. It looks like I did not misjudge him. He is definitely the kind of person that first martial uncle is looking for. Xiao Chen collected his emotions and looked around. When he saw Yu Chenxi 1,000 meters away, he smiled faintly. A strong fighting spirit immediately appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. His aura soared into the sky and pressed down on Yu Chenxi. Yu Chenxi smiled gently and said in a low voice, "Do you want to fight?" Coincidentally, my morning sun incantation has made a breakthrough. I have not had a suitable opponent to test it on. Boom! An aura even stronger than Xiao Chen's soared into the sky. Yu Chenxi's figure flashed and he quickly flew towards Xiao Chen. Seeing Yu Chenxi soar into the sky, Xiao Chen smiled gently. The fierce purple flame in his right eye formed a huge whirlpool. It seemed like it sucked in the heavens and earth. Shoot! Xiao Chen shouted and a purple flame spewed out from his right eye. The purple light flickered and dyed the night sky green. Everywhere the purple flame passed, it seemed like even the air was burned to ashes, leaving behind a huge black void. What a strong flame! A trace of astonishment flashed in Yu Chenxi's eyes. However, he did not panic. He clenched his fist tightly and a boundless energy gathered. His aura soared continuously. When Yu Chenxi's aura reached its peak, she shouted and punched ferociously. A dazzling light burst out from his fist. It was like the morning sun breaking through the night sky, completely dispelling the surrounding darkness. Boom! The tyrannical fist wind struck the incoming flame violently. When the two forces clashed, they did not give way to each other. A shock wave spread out in all directions. Chi! 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 Some of the taller mountains in the surroundings were struck by the shock wave and shattered, filling the night sky with rubble. Xiao Chen did not expect a casual strike from the Purple Thunder True Fire. After the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation reached the 6th layer would have such might. Even Yu Chenxi's Morning Sun Fist could not break it. Xiao Chen thought joyfully. The Morning Sun Fist was one of the few fist techniques famous for being tyrannical. A regular inferior-grade heaven-ranked martial technique could not compare to it in terms of pure strength. The two forces clashed for a long time before they slowly scattered. Xiao Chen placed his right hand on the saber hilt and drew the lunar shadow saber at lightning speed. Glittering wukuei. A dazzling purple saber qi appeared from nowhere. The dense light on the saber qi was like a piercing aurora in the night sky. This was the benefit of advancing to martial king. His essence was even denser. The quality of his essence was double that of a martial saint. Only at this moment did Xiao Chen bring out the true might of the Wukuei saber technique, an ancient martial technique. What a surging essence! The amount of essence he has should be no weaker than a regular superior-grade martial king. Yu Chenxi squinted his eyes. When the purple saber qi was 1 meter away from him, he punched the tip of the saber qi. Dang! Xiao Chen's delicate and fair palm did not seem to be made of flesh and blood. When the saber qi struck it, it gave off a melodious sound. Chapter 394. Ka Xie. Ka Xie. The purple saber qi was like a saber blade. It shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. The two exchanged another 10 moves. Xiao Chen discovered that even though he had advanced to martial king, The gap between him and Yuchensi had not shrunk. It looked like, with the help of the daybreak flower, Yuchensi's strength had increased qualitatively. Like before, Yuchensi did not need to use his state. Who? After an hour, Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and stopped fighting. The situation was the same as before. If this were a battle to the death, Xiao Chen would have used all his trump cards: the palm sword, the 8th move of the Wukuei saber technique, and the blue dragon chi. It would have been easy to force Yuchensi to use his state. It would have been 50-50. However, these were all Xiao Chen's trump cards. There was no need to expose them. Congratulations, in 2 months, you managed to advance from a martial saint to a martial king. I'm afraid you are the only one with such a shocking speed. Yuchensi landed beside Xiao Chen and laughed softly. His voice was melodious and pleasing to the ear. Xiao Chen said softly, "It's nothing. After using so many spirit herbs, it would be inexcusable if I did not break through." This person was as humble as before. He spoke so casually. However, a regular cultivator would not be so bold even with so many natural treasures. At this moment, Bai rushed over. When she saw Xiao Chen, she smiled joyfully and said, "Elder brother Xiao Chen, you have become stronger again." However, Bai did not slack off. "Elder sister, you said that I am now an inferior grade martial king." Xiao Chen looked at Yuchensi doubtfully. He did not dare to believe Bai's words. He remembered that before she came, she was only a superior grade martial saint. How could she improve so quickly? Yuchensi nodded and said, "I did not lie to you. Bai is indeed a martial king. Her heart-nourishing universe sword technique gives me a headache. Furthermore, she has condensed a sword heart. If she goes to the Great Gene Nation's Drifting Snow Sword Pavilion, there will be many supreme elders fighting to take her in as a disciple. I am a good friend of the Drifting Snow Sword Pavilion's young pavilion master. If you are interested, I can let Bai enter the inner sect." Xiao Chen had heard of the Drifting Snow Sword Pavilion before. It was a peak sect famous for sword. There were many experts in the sect, comparable to the Supreme Sky sect. When Xiao Bai heard that, she said softly, "Xiao Bai is not going to the sword pavilion. I just want to follow behind elder brother Xiao Chen. In the future, when I become powerful, I will help elder brother Xiao Chen beat up bad people. Thank you for your kind intentions. However, Bai has her own place to go. Let's forget about the Drifting Snow Sword Pavilion." When Yuchensi saw that the two were not interested, he did not raise this suggestion. It was already late at night. After the few chatted for a while, they took their leave. Dong! Dong! As Xiao Chen closed his eyes and cultivated, he suddenly heard footsteps. He opened his eyes and saw Yuchensi standing not far from him. "White-robed bladesman, can we speak for a while?" Yuchensi asked quietly as he looked at Xiao Chen under the moonlight. After glancing at the sleeping Bai, Xiao Chen nodded slightly. Then, he headed off into the distance with Yuchensi. The two stopped at the periphery of Qianren Island. The sea breeze blew from afar, gently caressing the two. It felt very comfortable. Xiao Chen casually found a clean spot and sat down. Then, he asked, "Why are you looking for me?" Yuchensi took a deep breath. Then, he seemed to have made up his mind. He said seriously, "In a few days, the Supreme Elder of my sect should be here. At that time, I would like to invite you to return to the Great Gene Nation with me." Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "You want me to go to the Supreme Sky sect with you?" Yuchensi nodded and said, "That's right. Right now, the cultivators of the world are facing a rare golden age. All sorts of geniuses are emerging. There are countless outstanding people. If you go to the Great Gene Nation, you will have a better understanding of this golden age. That is the dreamland of all genius cultivators. In the past year, I have traveled all over the boundless sea. Even that place pales in comparison to the Great Gene Nation. Since ancient times, there are many spirit veins that have never been scattered. There are many martial techniques left behind from the ancient era. There are countless strong sections. The competition there is more intense than anywhere else. If a cultivator does not go to the great Jin nation, they will never know how narrow their vision is. A fervent look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Clearly, he yearned to go to the great Jin nation that Yu Chenxi mentioned. That was also the place he had to go after leaving the great Qin nation. From the first time Yu Chenxi invited him to exchange moves with her, to the time when she asked for his help on Qianren Island, Xiao Chen had thought that this girl would not approach him for no reason. Now, she finally stated her purpose. She wanted to invite him to join the Supreme Sky Sect. It looked like her position in the Supreme Sky Sect was not simple. However, Xiao Chen had his own thoughts. Joining a large sect meant that he would have to choose a side in advance. However, how strong was the Supreme Sky Sect? Was it worth choosing a side now? Before he had a better understanding, Xiao Chen would not make a decision so easily. Xiao Chen muttered to himself for a while before asking, "With your talent and strength, you should be able to rank among the top of the younger generation in the great Jin nation, right?" When Yu Chenxi saw that Xiao Chen seemed to be interested, he smiled and said, "I can definitely rank among the top. However, I am still a distance away from the top. However, with the daybreak flower, I should be able to close the gap." If Yu Chenxi, with his demonic talent, could not rank among the top, then the competition in the great Jin nation had reached an extremely intense stage. Yu Chenxi continued, "The peak powers of the continent have been searching for geniuses from all over the world. Have you ever wondered why Kim Tae-ho and Su Xiaoxiao are on such good terms with you?" "Why?" Xiao Chen asked interestedly. Yu Chenxi kept Xiao Chen in suspense. He smiled gently and said, "The power behind them is also a peak sect of the continent. They are one of the true players of the continent. As long as you come with me to the Supreme Sky Sect, you will know everything." When Xiao Chen heard this, he could not help but laugh. This baffled Yu Chenxi. He asked, "What are you laughing at?" Xiao Chen got up and patted the dust off his body. He smiled gently and said, "I am laughing at your poor persuasion skills. Since you want me to join the Supreme Sky Sect, why did you not tell me the benefits of joining? Instead, you blabbered on and on. What is the point of that?" Yu Chenxi suddenly understood. He said, "Right, I forgot to mention that. The Supreme Sky Sect has all sorts of immortal-grade medicinal pills and countless spirit herbs that are more than 1,000 years old. There are even many heaven-ranked martial techniques and cultivation techniques," and Xiao Chen interrupted Yu Chenxi and patted her shoulder. Then, he smiled and said, "Miss Yu, this must be your first time persuading someone, right?" Yu Chenxi was stunned for a while. Then, she asked, "How did you know?" "No, the sky is about to brighten. You should sleep early. Don't disturb my cultivation." After Xiao Chen spoke, he turned and left. As Yu Chenxi watched Xiao Chen leave, she felt a headache coming on. She stomped her foot angrily. During this experiential training, she had met many outstanding talents from various places who came to curry favor with her. She had seen at least 50 people like Jin Wuji, if not 100. However, she did not fancy any of them. She had finally found someone she liked after much difficulty. Who knew that he would be so difficult to deal with? Furthermore, none of those people were like them. When Yu Chenxi saw Yu Chenxi, she was very polite and submissive. Jin Wuji did not care about her attitude at all, treating her like an ordinary person. Yu Chenxi even started to doubt her own charm. It looks like I will not be able to complete the mission that first martial uncle gave me," Yu Chenxi said with a drawn-out sigh. Early the next morning, when the first rays of sunlight shone down, the three of them woke up. After breakfast, Yu Chenxi came over and started talking about last night's topic. "Xiao Chen, I am very sincere. In the next 5-nation youth competition, even the people from the boundless sea and the ancient desolate land will be participating. This will be the grandest competition in the history of the Tianwu continent. You should have thought of participating before, right? However, the intensity of this competition is much higher than before. If you had not become a superior grade martial king, you would not have made it into the top 100. You should join the Supreme Sky Sect. Only a peak sect like the Supreme Sky Sect would know about fortuitous encounters. Only a fortuitous encounter can allow your strength to soar in 2 years. After struggling for an entire night, Yuchensi finally thought of a pretty good condition. After he spoke, he looked at Xiao Chen in anticipation. Xiao Chen was about to reply when his strong spiritual sense suddenly felt an overwhelming energy flying over. The elders of your sect should have arrived, Xiao Chen said softly as he looked at a huge wave in front. When Yuchensi heard this, he quickly looked over. He saw a towering wave a kilometer away, stretching for 50 kilometers. It was like a rolling door, slowly rolling up from the bottom to the top. Then, it left the surface of the sea and soared into the air. An old man walked over calmly on the surface of the sea. Undulating, monstrous waves rose from the ground as the old man walked over quietly. There were no energy fluctuations from the towering waves. The surface of the sea was calm as the old man walked over quietly. Even a martial monarch could not break through the huge wave. When seen from a distance, it looked like a huge wave gate was lifted up by a formless energy. Is this the power of a sage? Just by raising his hand, he can easily overturn the seas and rivers, changing the world. When Xiao Chen saw the old man walking over slowly, he did not show much astonishment in his eyes. There was only shock, a deep shock. This was a true expert, the people who stood at the peak of this world. Today, Xiao Chen finally got to see their true faces. Who? The old man was a kilometer away earlier. Now, he was already on the island. Even though he only took a few steps, he surpassed the limits of distance and arrived in an instant. First Martial Uncle, why are you here? When Yuchensi saw the old man, he revealed a joyful expression and quickly ran over. The old man smiled faintly. Then, he looked at Yuchensi and said, "You have no idea how anxious we were when we received your message. If not for the sect needing someone to stand guard, your Grandmaster would have come personally." Yuchensi stuck out his tongue mischievously. He smiled and said, "It is not like I can't get out. I am just temporarily trapped. You are all too anxious." Chapter 395. Yuchensi gave Xiao Chen a meaningful look and quickly whispered a few words into the old man's ear. After the old man heard this, he looked at Xiao Chen with great interest. His gaze seemed to see through all the disguises in this world and see through Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's eyes narrowed as he sensed the other party's vast mental strength. He instinctively wanted to use his divine sense to block it. However, when Xiao Chen thought about how the other party was a bona fide martial sage intending to check on him, his spiritual sense might not be strong enough to block it. Even if he succeeded, it would only attract the other party's interest, and he would use other methods to achieve his goal. Hence, Xiao Chen simply gave up on resisting. He would just watch. It was too difficult to keep all his secrets from a martial sage. Xiao. The old man withdrew his gaze and revealed a thoughtful expression. He muttered to himself, "What a strange kid, I can't see what his martial spirit is." "Uncle Master, what do you think of this person? What do you think of my taste?" Yuchensi asked expectantly. The old man nodded and smiled, reaching inferior grade martial king at the age of 18. With such a cultivation talent, he can only be considered an outstanding talent in the great Jin nation. However, he has grasped 2 states at the same time. Just this point alone makes him a genius. Haha, there's another important point, Yuchensi asked with interest. What else? The old man nodded and said, "I'll talk to him myself later." In short, you didn't misjudge him. He is the kind of person this old man is looking for. Yuchensi immediately smiled happily, but then he said helplessly, "This fellow doesn't seem to be moved by force or persuasion. I talked for a long time, but he didn't show any signs of agreeing or refusing. The old man leisurely smiled and softly said, "He is a smart person. I will go and talk to him." Xiao Chen and Xiao Bai were about 200 meters away from the old man. Logically speaking, at such a close distance, he should be able to hear the conversation between Yu Chenxi and Xiao Bai very clearly. But for some reason, he couldn't hear a single sound, and when he looked over, the figure of the other party seemed a little blurry. In this way, it was impossible to guess what the other party was talking about by mouthing. Just as he was thinking about something, the old man and Yu Chenxi suddenly appeared in front of him. Xiao Chen collected his thoughts and cupped his hands in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, saying, "Junior Xiao Chen greets Senior. May I know your name?" The old man sized up Xiao Chen from a close distance. When he saw that Xiao Chen did not show any change in his expression when he saw him, the old man praised him in his heart. "I don't dare to claim my name. I am Gu Ying, an idler of the Supreme Sky Sect. If you don't mind, you can call me Senior Gu." Xiao Chen nodded and said, "Thank you for your help, Senior Gu. Otherwise, I would have to stay on this deserted island for more than a year." Gu Ying waved his hand and said, "It can't be considered a help. It was just something I did along the way. If I guessed correctly, you should have only started cultivating for 2 years, right?" The moment Gu Ying said this, not only did Xiao Chen feel astonished, but Yu Chenxi, who was behind Gu Ying, was even more astonished. Could this be the crucial point that first martial uncle mentioned? To be able to cultivate to martial king in 2 years, his talent was truly horrifying. Xiao Chen also did not expect Gu Ying's eyes to be so sharp. He could even see this. Xiao Chen could only nod and admit it. Gu Ying smiled faintly and said, "You are a smart person. I will not beat around the bush. The continent is in the midst of a once-in-a-thousand-years golden age. The peak powers are all looking for geniuses. Without understanding the Supreme Sky Sect, it is wise not to choose a side. However, I have to warn you, before the next 5-nation youth competition, it is best to choose a side. That will be your last chance. Take it. This is your reward for helping Chenxi." Gu Ying tossed over a golden medallion. Xiao Chen caught it and took a look. The words "Supreme" were written on the front of the medallion and Haotian were written on the back of the medallion. The golden medallion seemed to have a miraculous power. When Xiao Chen held it in his hand, he felt a faint warmth. There was an indistinct, gentle energy coming from it. It instantly calmed one's state of mind, allowing one to completely relax. Seeing Xiao Chen catch the medallion, Gu Ying smiled and said, "I'll take my leave first. In the future, when you come to the Great Gene Nation, you might as well come to the Supreme Sky Sect. This old man will do his best as a host." Xiao Chen put away the medallion and performed a cupped fist salute. "Senior, please take care." In the distance, Gu Ying carried Yu Chenxi, moving a kilometer with each step. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from Xiao Chen's sight. As Xiao Chen stared at the two's footsteps, he muttered, "According to legend, every move of a martial sage can affect the laws of heaven and earth. It looks like the legend is true." Gu Ying carried Yu Chenxi in the air, moving a kilometer with each step. "First martial uncle, why didn't you tell him about joining the Supreme Sky Sect?" Yu Chenxi asked Gu Ying, feeling suspicious. Gu Ying smiled gently and said, "It's fine. Just accept the Haotian medallion. You are a good lass, but your thoughts are too pure. Otherwise, you would not have been so angered by this brat that you could do nothing about it." Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and smiled at Bai. "Bai, it's time for us to go." The two of them walked quickly towards the huge wave. Not long after they left, the huge wave slowly sank back down. The entire Qianren Island was sealed up by the huge wave once again. It would reopen in 3 years. However, not many people would return by then. On the calm surface of the sea, Xiao Chen and Bai chatted as they walked. With their current cultivation, it was no longer difficult for them to walk on the water. Bai said softly, "Elder brother Xiao Chen, I have already practiced the flowing light sword art to the 5th layer. In the future, I will no longer be afraid of the bad guy. Bye. So, elder brother Xiao Chen, please don't treat me as a burden. When Xiao Chen saw Bai's slightly red eyes, he was stunned. The current Bai was no longer the little spirit fox who did not know anything. Her thoughts had started to become more meticulous. She already had her own thoughts about some of his actions. Xiao Chen rubbed Bai's head and smiled gently. How can Bai be a burden? In the past, she helped me pick many herbs and saved my life a few times. Now, she has become even stronger than me. After a pause, Xiao Chen looked at the calm sea in front of him and muttered, However, I owe you too much. If I let you get injured again, I will not be able to bear it in my heart. When Bai was born, Xiao Chen separated her from her mother. Although the situation was urgent back then and he had saved her from the hands of the Tang clan, he still had his own selfish motives. However, he still had his own selfish desires. Otherwise, he wouldn't have passed on a secret demonic cultivation technique to his mother as compensation. Outside Whitewater City, the little fellow did not hesitate to go berserk to save him from the hands of Hua Yunfei and Duanmuking. Then, for Xiao Chen's sake, she dragged her exhausted body through savage forest. In the dangerous savage forest with many ferocious spirit beasts, she snatched food from the tiger's mouth and snatched medicinal herbs to help Xiao Chen survive the most dangerous period of his life. From that moment on, Xiao Chen swore in his heart that he would no longer treat Xiao Bai as a pet. He would also not let her get hurt because of him. After Bai transformed into a human, the guilt in Xiao Chen's heart became even stronger. He did not dare to let Bai take any more risk. Therefore, in his heart, he had never seen Whitey as a burden, not even in the slightest. Bai's eyes were somewhat moist. She said softly, Is that true? Elder brother Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen smiled and said, Really? Even truer than pearls. Let's go. Let's compete to see who reaches Green Wind Island first. If you get there first, I'll treat you to a feast and good wine. Bai stopped crying and smiled. She said, Good. Bai runs very fast. Elder brother Xiao Chen will definitely not be able to catch me. Boom. Boom. Just at this moment, an unending wave suddenly surged up a kilometer away from the two. The wave was a kilometer tall and surged ferociously. An undercurrent immediately surged up on the calm surface of the sea and quickly surged towards the huge wave. In the blink of an eye, the huge wave instantly grew another kilometer. Aside from martial sages, no one else could achieve such a feat. Xiao Chen showed a helpless expression. A sense of helplessness welled up in his heart. Unexpectedly, he ran into two martial sages in one day. Before martial sages, the two had no chance of survival. However, the other party did not attack. Clearly, there was still room to turn the situation around. Xiao Chen looked up and saw that there was no one around. He shouted, I wonder which senior is here? Why are you blocking this junior's path? Pooh! Pooh! Suddenly, soft footsteps came from behind the two. Xiao Chen turned his head to take a look. Xiao Chen saw two blurry figures slowly appear in the distance. It was a man and a woman, both dressed in white. Only when they got closer did they see their appearances clearly. The man looked to be in his 30s, and had an incomparably handsome face. There was a faintly discernible demonic aura on his face, and his eyes were deep and filled with endless temptation. This was a man that would drive all women crazy. Xiao Chen had never seen such a handsome and elegant man before. He brought out the charm of a man to the extreme. The woman also looked to be in her 30s. However, she was pretty and had smooth skin. She looked extremely charming. When she walked with the man, they looked like a perfect match. The expression in the two's eyes was very familiar to Xiao Chen. Suddenly, he turned his head to look at Bai. Suddenly, he was startled. This man and woman looked very similar to Bai. Xiao Chen had a guess in his heart. Bai grabbed Xiao Chen's arm tightly and hid behind him. She said in a soft voice, Elder brother Xiao Chen, why do I feel that these two people are very familiar? Naturally, you are my daughter. How could you not be familiar? The handsome man in white smiled gently as he looked at Bai. The beautiful woman at the side smiled at Xiao Chen and said, "Little friend, thank you for teaching me the secret technique and for taking care of my daughter for so long." Bai looked at Xiao Chen and asked, "Elder brother Xiao Chen, is what they said true?" Xiao Chen's expression turned grave. He had not expected such a scene. After a long time, he nodded and said, "Bai is real. They are your parents." Since the other party could tell him the secret of the mysterious 9 heavenly revolution transformation and they looked so similar, their identities could not be fake. Chapter 396. The only thing that Xiao Chen had doubts about was how the other party found him. Bai's eyes were filled with curiosity. He looked at the two of them, looking very excited. The sense of familiarity and closeness that came from their bloodline caused Bai to lose his initial panic. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and did his best to remain calm. He asked, "How did you find me?" Bai's parents exchanged glances. Finally, the white-clothed man said, "Let me tell you. Bai's mother knows your identity. After she successfully transformed, she went to the Myriad Fiend Palace to look for me. From then on, I sent people to the Great Qin Nation to look for news of you. However, you seem to have offended some big powers and went into hiding. The people I sent could not find any news of you. It was only until 3 months ago, when you defeated the noble clan heirs at the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, that we heard news of you again. After that, news of your battle with Yu Chensi at the Green Wind Island spread out. That was when we found out where you were." It made sense. After leaving the Heavenly Saber Pavilion, Xiao Chen did not bother to hide his movements. As long as a power wanted to find him, it would not be difficult. With his doubts cleared, Xiao Chen threw caution to the wind. He said, "What do you want? Just say it. Kill me or torture me. After all, I cannot resist." "Do you want to kill elder brother Xiao Chen? Bai forbids you from harming him." When Bai heard Xiao Chen's words, he immediately stood in front of Xiao Chen anxiously. The white-robed man and the beautiful woman looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. "Why would I kill you? You saved my wife's life and helped my daughter transform successfully. I can tell with a glance whether or not you've enslaved her. How can I, an Zixuan, not distinguish right from wrong?" This person's words gave off a very magnanimous feeling. He stood quietly on the surface of the sea, not emitting the aura of a martial sage. Xiao Chen's expression relaxed slightly. Clearly, he had not expected such a situation. He had taken in the other party's daughter as his pet. Originally, he thought the other party would punish him. Even if they did not kill him on account of him saving Bai's mother, they would definitely beat him up. From the looks of it, not only would they not kill him, they would even take care of him. This confused Xiao Chen. Bai's mother looked at Bai and smiled. "We will not do anything to you. We just want Bai to stay in the Myriad Fiend Palace. If her identity is discovered in the human world, she will be an anomaly." And Zixuan continued, "With your strength, it is far from enough to protect her. Staying in the Myriad Demon Palace is the safest." Xiao Chen lowered his head and entered deep thought. The other party was Xiao Bai's parents. Logically speaking, they had the right to take Xiao Bai away. He did not have many requests to refuse. However, he still felt somewhat reluctant to send Xiao Bai away so quickly. For a long time, he had been alone, with Xiao Bai accompanying him. To Xiao Chen, Bai was no longer a pet but a true companion. After she left, his path as a cultivator would be even lonelier. Bai will not leave. Bai transformed into a human after much difficulty so that she can stay by Xiao Chen's side and cultivate to help him beat up the bad guys. When Bai heard that an Zixuan wanted to take her away, she quickly walked behind Xiao Chen and spoke timidly. When an Zixuan heard this, his expression changed slightly. He sized up Xiao Chen, and the expression in his eyes started to change. An indistinct killing intent spread out. Xiao Chen immediately felt a horrifying pressure. He could not understand what was going on. He raised his guard and prepared to retreat at any time. When Bai's mother saw the situation, she pulled Zishuan gently and whispered something into his ear. Only then did his expression improve. When Xiao Chen heard what Bai's mother said, he could not help but smile bitterly. It turned out that Zishuan thought that Xiao Chen was toying with his daughter. That was why Bai said such things. However, no matter how much of a scoundrel I am, I will not make a move on a little girl, Xiao Chen thought gloomily. However, Xiao Chen could understand why his parents were so worried. It was time for him to say something. Xiao Chen pulled Bai to the front and smiled gently. Bai and your parents should leave first. I will go to the Myriad Fiend Palace to visit you in the future. With my current strength, I am indeed unable to guarantee your safety. Bai's eyes were somewhat moist as she said, Elder brother Xiao Chen, do you not want me anymore? When Zishuan and his wife saw how attached Bai was to Xiao Chen, they did not know what to do. Especially when they saw the little girl crying, they did not know what to do. Xiao Chen advised softly, You have been by my side for a long time already. However, your parents have never interacted with you. This is not fair to them. Isn't Bai very sensible? When Bai heard this, she entered deep thought. Clearly, she was moved by Xiao Chen's words. However, she still hesitated and felt very uneasy. At this moment, Bai's mother walked over and gently held Bai's hand. She smiled and said, Bai, your strength is still very weak. Xiao Chen will always have to split his attention to protect you. This will affect his cultivation. You don't want that to happen, right? When she said this, Bai lowered her head. She thought to herself, That's right, I am indeed too weak. I can't even defeat some strong demonic beast. Although Xiao Chen did not say that she was a burden, there were some things that did not need to be said. For a long time, it was indeed Xiao Chen who had been protecting her. She rarely helped Xiao Chen anymore. When Bai thought of this, she raised her head and asked, Then, if I go to the Myriad Fiend Palace, will I be able to become stronger? And Zishuan finally heaved a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, You are my daughter. Naturally, your talent will not be bad. As long as you go to the Myriad Fiend Palace, you will be stronger than me one day. Bai turned around and asked Xiao Chen if this was true. After she received a positive answer, she finally agreed to go to the Myriad Fiend Palace. What will come will come. Even though Xiao Chen was reluctant, he still made up his mind. He removed the spirit blood jade from his chest and handed it over to Zishuan. Zishuan received the spirit blood jade and took a look. Then, he handed it back and said softly, Keep it. There will be a chance for us to meet again in the future. I know you truly care about Bai. After Zishuan spoke, he took out a jade medallion and handed it to Xiao Chen. He said, This is the Myriad Fiend Palace's Heavenly Fiend Medallion. In times of danger, it can summon an ancient fiend emperor's clone to protect your life. If you do not need it, you can come to the Myriad Fiend Palace to look for me. I will agree to a condition that is not too excessive. After receiving the medallion, Xiao Chen felt somewhat speechless. These martial sages seemed to like giving medallions to others. He actually received 2 medallions in one day. The 2 of you will take your leave. Bai will take her leave as well. In the future, when you go to the Myriad Fiend Palace, don't be a little drunkard. Xiao Chen smiled gently and said goodbye to everyone. As Bai watched Xiao Chen leave, she wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes. She made a vow in her heart. After 2 years, I will definitely become stronger. I will not be a burden to elder brother Xiao Chen. After saying goodbye to Bai, Xiao Chen was truly alone. In the future, he could only walk the path of cultivation by himself. Xiao Chen brandished the lunar shadow saber in his hand and smiled faintly. That's not right. I forgot about you. I still have the lunar shadow saber. No matter what, my saber will always be by my side. There was still a long way to go. He had to walk it himself. Xiao Chen sorted out his emotions and continued his journey to the Green Wind Island. Just as Xiao Chen was about to reach the halfway point, two sharp killing chi came from a group of reefs in front. They shot towards Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's gaze paused and he looked forward. When he saw the appearance of the two people, he could not help but feel it was strange. He said, "Wu Shangshuan and Yang Wen, why are the two of them together?" Xiao Chen remembered that Wu Shangshuan had personally killed a few of Yang Wen's companions in the treasure room on Qianren Island. Now, the two of them were together. Unexpectedly, they had become companions. Xiao! Xiao! Wu Shangshuan and Yang Wen quickly flew towards Xiao Chen. Soon, they landed 100 meters in front of Xiao Chen. Wu Shangshuan rubbed his chin, which was still slightly misaligned. A dark look flashed on his aged face as he said ruthlessly, "I said it before. As long as we wait here, we will meet this brat sooner or later. Yang Wen, do you believe me now?" Yang Wen smiled faintly and did not deny it. He looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Hand over the box you obtained from the treasure room and the spirit herbs you obtained from the herb garden. Then I can let you off today. Otherwise, you can forget about leaving here alive." Xiao Chen squinted his eyes and revealed a faint mocking expression. As long as they had a common interest, they could stand together so intimately. This was interesting. However, did these two people really treat him as a piece of meat on a chopping board? Wu Shangshuan revealed a murderous intent on his face. He said coldly, "Why are you wasting your breath on him? Just kill him. After that, we will split his spatial ring." Kill. After Wu Shangshuan spoke, he stomped heavily on the surface of the sea. The huge force caused the calm sea to surge. Bang! Yang Wen's eyes turned cold. He did not waste any more words. He stomped on the surface of the sea and shot forward. Xiao Chen's expression remained calm as he looked at the two people with startling auras. There were no fluctuations in them at all. A fierce purple flame burned continuously in his right eye. Soon, a huge flame whirlpool formed in the boundless space in his right eye. Xiao Chen shouted, and the surging purple flames surged forward. Boom! When the two of them were less than 20 meters away from Xiao Chen, a huge purple flame suddenly soared up in front of them. It was 10 meters long and 100 meters tall. The blazing purple flame flickered with a dim light. Its high temperature caused the surface of the sea to boil. Steam rose up and spread out, forming an overwhelming mist. Wu Shangshuan's and Yang Wen's expressions changed greatly. Just a moment ago, the boundless surging sea was before them. In the next moment, it seemed like only the huge purple flame remained in the world. It filled their vision, shocking them. Retreat! The strange and strong purple flame startled the two of them. They could not understand what was going on. They executed their movement techniques to their limits and quickly retreated. Chi! Chi! When the purple flame landed, a deep pit with a diameter of more than 20 meters appeared on the sea where the two of them were originally standing. Countless amounts of water vapor rose from the surface of the sea. The deep pit only appeared for an instant before the surrounding seawater quickly surged over. Chapter 397. A huge whirlpool formed on the calm surface of the sea. It sucked in all the surrounding water. The whirlpool spun continuously, growing faster and faster. In the end, a huge pillar of water rose from the ground and shot straight into the sky. It was an incomparably terrifying sight. Wu Shangshuan and Yang Wen exchanged glances. They could see fear in each other's eyes. 3 months ago, although this Xiao Chen was very strong, he was still slightly weaker than them. However, at this moment, Xiao Chen's casual attack, without even drawing his saber, caused such a huge commotion. His strength clearly surpassed any of them. Damn it! This fellow has matured. We have to do our best to take him down today. Otherwise, we might die here, Wu Shangshuan said with a cold expression. Wu Shangshuan said with a cold expression. At some point in time, a black dagger had appeared in his hand. Yang Wen also took out a pair of gloves from his spatial ring and slowly put them on. There were barbs and hooks on the glove. There was also a spiritual light flickering on them. Clearly, it was a secret treasure. When Xiao Chen saw the actions of the two, he smiled faintly and slowly walked forward. The flames in his right eye started to gather once again. Boom! 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 Streams of purple flames shot out like cannonballs. Everywhere they passed, the air burned. A vacuum appeared, dark and gloomy. Bang! Bang! Zoom! 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 The two of them continued to jump up and down on the surface of the water, dodging the incoming purple flames. The waves on the surface of the sea surged and surged continuously. From time to time, pillars of water would shoot out in all directions. Occasionally, some unlucky fish would be carried into the air by the wave. However, they were immediately roasted by the high temperature, leaving only their skeletons. Boom! Suddenly, Yang Wen shouted and leaped into the air. A strong force burst forth from the gloves as he punched. Yang Wen punched the purple flames flying at Xiao Chen. When the horrifying fist wind struck the purple flames, there was an intense explosion. Shock waves surged and 100-meter-tall wave immediately appeared on the surface of the sea. It looks like 70% of the purple flame's strength is equal to the peak strike of a superior-grade martial king, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Since that is the case, there is no need to continue testing it. Kassier. Xiao Chen placed his right hand on the saber hilt and drew the lunar shadow saber at lightning speed. A dazzling purple light quickly appeared on the saber blade. Wu Shangxuan turned into a black line and passed through the water screen. Just as he was about to catch Xiao Chen off guard, he suddenly felt a boundless killing intent surging toward him from above. With a horrified expression, he hurriedly raised his head to look, only to see a dazzling purple aurora, so piercing that it hurt his eyes. Dang! In the time it took for a spark to fly, Wu Shangxuan took half a step back. He held his dagger in front of him and blocked Xiao Chen's descending attack. His experience saved his life at the crucial moment, preventing him from being split into two halves by the saber. However, the huge force from the dagger numbed Wu Shangxuan's wrist. He nearly lost his grip on the dagger. When Wu Shangxuan saw Xiao Chen's calm expression but his eyes filled with killing qi, his heart turned cold. He quickly used his left hand to support his wrist. "Can you block it?" Xiao Chen snorted coldly. He lowered his right hand, which was holding the saber hilt. The purple qi whirlpool in his dantian spun rapidly and a boundless essence liquid poured out. With the aid of the purple thunder divine incantation's 6th layer, Xiao Chen's strength instantly increased by 20%. Bang! This force knocked Wu Shangxuan's body into the sea, sending him flying. His dagger also flew out of his hand. How many spirit herbs did this fellow eat? Why is his essence so surging? It is even stronger than a regular peak superior grade martial king. Wu Shangxuan vomited a mouthful of blood. He was horrified as he thought to himself, Xiao Chen actually crushed me in terms of essence. Although Wu Shangxuan's cultivation technique was only medial grade earth ranked, he had cultivated it for decades. However, he, Xiao Chen, was only in his teens, yet he could suppress Wu Shangxuan in terms of essence. Boom! Suddenly, there was a piercing sonic boom. It was Yang Wen taking advantage of this opportunity to fly over. Xiao Chen turned around and brandished his saber. His movements were swift and fluid, and the saber landed on his opponent's glove. Dang! 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 The sharp saber gave off sparks as it struck the glove. However, the glove was not damaged at all. Most of the surging essence had been dissipated by the glove. Yang Wen smiled sinisterly. My glove is an offensive peak inferior grade secret treasure. You do not have the ability to break it. Don't regret giving me the opportunity to get close. Xiao. In a flash, Yang Wen arrived less than a meter from Xiao Chen. His right fist punched at Xiao Chen's chest. The barbs and spikes on his fist could be seen clearly. This made one tremble in fear. If one was struck, even if they did not die, they would be severely injured. When cultivators fought in close combat, Long weapons like sabers and swords would lose their usefulness. They would not be able to block the opponent's attack. The longer one was, the stronger one was. The shorter one was, the more dangerous one was. This was the principle. Xiao Chun tilted his body to the side and dodged his opponent's attack. Then, he quickly retreated. Just as his opponent was about to get close again, Xiao Chun brandished his saber. However, that strange glove managed to dissipate most of the force from Xiao Chun's attack. Yang Wen took advantage of this opportunity to get close again. Hu Qi. This repeated a few times. In the end, Xiao Chun could not shake off Yang Wen's attack. Wu Shangxuan, who had recovered his essence, took this opportunity to join the battle. He turned into a black beam of light and occasionally used his sharp dagger to harass Xiao Chun. With the two of them working together, they finally suppressed the imposing Xiao Chun. They forced Xiao Chun back. In the blink of an eye, he had retreated a kilometer. Wu Shangxuan regained some color on his face. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Brat, the people that I, Wu Shangxuan, target have never survived. You will not be an exception. I will trample you to death later. You actually dared to kick me. How reckless!" Right after Wu Shangxuan spoke, in the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chun caught on to Wu Shangxuan's carelessness and kicked him. Ka Xie. Xiao Chun kicked Wu Shangxuan's chin again. Xiao Chun sent Wu Shangxuan tumbling in the air. Blood dripped continuously from his chin. This is a good opportunity. Yang Wen's eyes lit up in joy. He could not help but increase the speed of his fist wind. Xiao Chun had just sent out a kick. When he pulled it back, he would be wide open. He would not be able to dodge or retreat in time. Xiao Chun could not dodge this punch. However, he did not intend to. With a thought, the jade pendant on his chest flashed with light. A thick essence barrier surrounded Xiao Chun. Ka Xie. Ka Xie. The gloves with barbs and iron spikes only paused on the surface of the Yuan Qi barrier for a second before they broke through it and continued forward. It looked like this jade pendant was as it said. It could only block a peak medial grade Martial King's attack. It could not block a superior grade Martial King's attack. However, if it could slow down the force of his opponent's punch, Xiao Chun would have achieved his goal. After all, he still had a peak inferior grade defensive inner vest. The sharp gloves struck Xiao Chun's chest. However, there was no bloody mess or hole in his chest as Xiao Chun expected. It only knocked Xiao Chun back 10 meters. After that, he was fine. How can this be? My gloves are extremely sharp. Even a peak superior grade Martial King cannot block them, Yang Wen said in shock. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and brandished his saber. He pressed forward and said, "You are not the only person in this world with secret treasures." Yang Wen recovered his wits and smiled. "As long as you let me get close, as long as your essence is not stronger than a martial monarch's, no matter how strong you are, my fist will be able to neutralize it. Is that so?" Xiao Chun smiled coldly, and a red light flickered on his forehead. The dazzling purple saber instantly gave off a red light. It was the state of massacre infused into it. Ka. Ka. Before Yang Wen's incredulous gaze, Xiao Chen's saber chopped the glove on his right hand in half, causing it to fall to the ground. Xiao Chen could no longer neutralize the surging force. When the saber chi swept out, it opened a horrifying wound on Yang Wen's chest. Wukuei shakes the heavens. Xiao Chun followed up with another attack. He executed the killing move of the Wukuei saber technique. After advancing to Martial King, the strength of the Wukuei saber technique had increased several-fold. The might of a peak Earth-ranked martial technique was truly unleashed. The divine Wukuei tree descended from the sky with a surging aura, carrying the force of lightning. Yang Wen could not dodge in time. The divine tree shook him, causing him to vomit large mouthfuls of blood. Then, he fell to the sea. Xiao Chun did not give Yang Wen a chance to get up. He rushed forward and swung his saber 3 times, ending this person's life. Then, Xiao Chun casually removed this person's spatial ring. Then, he turned his gaze to Wu Shangxuan, who had turned into a black beam of light fleeing into the distance. Shao Chen, the next time you meet this old man will consign you to eternal damnation. I will make you die a tragic death. Shao Chen leaped into the air and said indifferently, You no longer have that chance. Wukui breaks the heavens. A beam of light alternating between purple and red appeared on the saber. It quickly elongated. In the blink of an eye, it extended a few thousand meters above the sea. Everywhere the beam of light passed, huge waves surged up on both sides of the sea. It looked very horrifying. There was a miserable cry. At the end of the beam of light, Wu Shangxuan clutched the bloody hole in his chest. His eyes were filled with horror. Pooh! 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 Shao Chen slowly walked over on the water. By the time he arrived before Wu Shangxuan, the other party was already dead. Shao Chen removed the spatial ring on his hand. Shao Chen did not even bother to look at the other party's corpse. He sheathed the lunar shadow saber and resumed his journey to the Green Wind Island. The setting sun looked like blood as it reflected on the vast sea. The two corpses floated quietly on the surface of the sea. Soon there would be nothing left of them. The ferocious fish would devour them. After killing 2 peak superior grade martial saints, Shao Chen's emotions did not fluctuate much. Before he advanced to Martial King, he could already kill superior grade martial kings. Now that he was a martial king, his cultivation had increased significantly. His strength had increased in all aspects. Killing 2 ordinary peak superior grade martial kings was nothing. A cultivator's strength was determined by the purity and quantity of essence. After that, it was determined by the cultivation technique, the martial technique, and the state that they comprehended. Shao Chen was not lacking in any of these areas. He relied on a large number of spirit herbs to increase his essence to that of a peak superior grade martial king. His cultivation technique was a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. However, his opponent only cultivated a medial grade earth-ranked cultivation technique. As for his martial technique, it was a peak superior grade earth-ranked ancient martial technique. Chapter 398. As for states, there was no need to even mention them. The vast state of thunder infused with holy might and the state of massacre, which was above ordinary states, completely suppressed the other party. With Shao Chen's current strength, aside from the peak geniuses of some sects, he would be undefeatable. As long as a half-step martial monarch did not appear, Shao Chen would be undefeatable within the martial king realm. Collecting his thoughts, Shao Chen opened Yang Wen's spatial ring and scanned it with his spiritual sense. He counted more than 20,000 inferior-grade spirit stones and 5,000 medial-grade spirit stones. It looked like this person had gained a lot on Qianren Island. 5,000 medial-grade spirit stones was not a small sum. However, all of this now belonged to Shao Chen. After Shao Chen put away the spirit stones, he fixed his gaze on Wu Shangxuan's spatial ring. This person was ruthless and crafty. In the main hall of Qianren Island, at least 80 treasure seekers had died at his hands. When Shao Chen thought of the dozens of bloody corpses at the entrance, he felt a chill in his heart. I wonder how many things are in Wu Shangxuan's spatial ring. Shao Chen felt some anticipation as he sent in his spiritual sense. See! Piles of spirit stones flashing with azure light dazzled Shao Chen. Even though he had prepared himself, he had not expected this person to be so rich. Shao Chen did a rough count. This person had more than 15,000 medial-grade spirit stones and more than 200 of the extremely rare superior-grade spirit stones. There were countless inferior-grade spirit stones. There were also many secret treasures and all sorts of martial techniques and cultivation technique. He must have obtained them from other cultivators. Shao Chen took a deep breath and slowly calmed himself down. He said indifferently, "Relying on the evil path is not the right path." This person had so many resources, but he could not advance to half-step martial monarch. This was the best proof. This was also a warning to Xiao Chen. If a person's heart was twisted, they would not be able to reach the peak. The busy harbor of Green Wind Island appeared in Xiao Chen's vision. Xiao Chen placed the spirit stones into his universe ring. He quickened his pace and rushed toward the Green Wind Island. After setting foot on the island, Xiao Chen immediately rushed to his inn and inquired about the whereabouts of Kim Taeho and Su Xiaoxiao. "Young hero, your friend left a month ago. Before he left behind a letter and asked me to give it to you." When the waiter saw Xiao Chen asking, he quickly took out a letter and handed it to him. Since he left a month ago, it meant that Kim Taeho had been waiting for him for more than 2 months. That was enough. Xiao Chen smiled gently and received the letter. Then, he rewarded the waiter with an inferior-grade spirit stone. The waiter immediately left happily. Opening the envelope, Xiao Chen read it carefully. After a while, Xiao Chen finished reading the contents. There were not many words in the letter. The gist of it was that the dispute between them and the Black Dragon Triad had been settled, and both sides had taken a step back. They could not wait for him to deal with this matter for the time being. At the end of the letter, Kim Taeho invited Xiao Chen to visit the Great Tang Empire when he had the time. At that time, Xiao Chen would receive him properly. Regarding Kim Taeho's invitation, Xiao Chen was somewhat interested. The strongest sect in the Great Tang Empire, the Beast-Taming Abode, was famous. He had wanted to go and take a look for a long time. The Beast-Taming Abode was the only sect that systematically tamed high-ranked spirit beasts. According to rumors, they even tamed rank 9 and rank 10 spirit beasts. The Beast-Taming Abode was very famous in the entire continent. The founder, Mao Yanan, was also the only cultivator who did not have the strength of a martial emperor but could compete with one. After putting away the letter, Xiao Chen called the waiter to prepare a room and hot water. After that, he took a comfortable hot bath and put on his clothes. Then, he ordered a sumptuous meal and started eating. After living on a deserted island and in closed-door cultivation for the past 3 months, Xiao Chen felt somewhat bored. Now that he had taken a bath and had a sumptuous meal, he felt that it was a wonderful thing. "Waiter, give this lord 2 jars of wine and 5 kilograms of beef. The faster, the better." Dong, dong, dong. Just as Xiao Chen finished eating and was about to pay the bill and leave, a stout man came up from downstairs. He was 2 meters tall and carried a huge axe. He looked boorish and ferocious. Most people would tremble in fear when they saw him. This was Bai Lishi, whom Xiao Chen had forced out of the herb garden. Xiao Chen had not expected to see him here. Bai Lishi looked around and saw the white-robed Xiao Chen. His expression could not help but change, and a ferocious look appeared in his eyes. He took out the giant axe from his back and swung it at Zhang Xian without any hesitation. Dang! Xiao Chen did not draw his saber. Just as the huge axe was about to hack down, the tip of his saber struck the axe's edge, giving off a dull sound. A huge force came from the saber. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen was unable to block it. He was forced back 3 steps and only stopped when he pushed his heels against the wooden boards. This axe seems to be quite famous, Xiao Chen thought to himself. Bai Lishi's physical body should be stronger than his. However, Bai Lishi was not ridiculously strong. Even when Xiao Chen used some skill, he could not neutralize the force. This could only mean that the problem was with the axe. However, Xiao Chen did not think too much about it. At this moment, he had no intention of fighting with this person. Even if he was a martial king, his chances of defeating Bai Lishi were not more than 50%. Xiao Chen could only say that he did not fear this person. After all, Bai Lishi was a famous cultivator. Furthermore, he had substantiated his physical body. His combat prowess was much stronger than cultivators of the same cultivation realm. Seeing that Bai Lishi intended to make another move, Xiao Chen said sullenly, "Bai Lishi, if you still want spirit herbs for tempering the physical body, go ahead and chop down with this axe." When Bai Lishi heard this, His eyes flickered. After hesitating for a long time, he did not chop down in the end. Dang! Bai Lishi casually placed the axe on the floor, and the huge restaurant trembled. He sat down and said, "This old man forgot. Brat, you cultivate the physical body as well. You must have picked a lot of spirit herbs for tempering the physical body. Hand over all the spirit herbs for tempering the physical body, and I will not kill you. I, Bai Lishi, always keep my word." Xiao Chen sat down across from Bai Lishi. He smiled gently and said, "Sorry, I need those spirit herbs for tempering the physical body. So, I cannot give them to you." Bai Lishi's expression turned cold. He raised his huge axe and said angrily, "Brat, you dare to trick this old man?" Just as Bai Lishi was about to erupt in anger, Xiao Chen said leisurely, "I do not have any spirit herbs. However, I do have a heaven-ranked body-tempering secret manual that the Savannah King passed down." Bai Lishi's expression suddenly changed. He quickly put away his huge axe and asked with a bewildered expression, "Are you talking about the Savannah King's firmament body-tempering art?" Xiao Chen smiled gently and tossed out the firmament body-tempering art. When Bai Lishi saw it clearly, he immediately put it away. "Unexpectedly, it really is the firmament body-tempering art. I thought that the Dark Church's people had snatched it away. Unexpectedly, you managed to find it." Bai Lishi's expression filled with shock. A fervent look appeared in his eyes. There were very few cultivators on the continent that cultivated the physical body. Naturally, cultivation techniques for tempering the physical body were even rarer. Even if there were, they would be low-ranked cultivation technique. Finding a high-ranked cultivation technique was harder than ascending to heaven. For so many years, Bai Lishi had only cultivated an inferior-grade earth-ranked cultivation technique. He had already cultivated that cultivation technique to its peak long ago. There was no way for him to improve it any further. When Bai Lishi saw that Xiao Chen really had a heaven-ranked body-tempering cultivation technique in his hands, his excitement was easy to imagine. Bai Lishi's hand unknowingly moved to the handle of his axe. He withdrew his killing chi and thought to himself happily, "This brat took the initiative to come to me. When I kill him, I can vent my anger and obtain body-tempering spirit herbs and secret manuals. This is killing many birds with one stone." Xiao Chen took a sip of tea and looked at Bai Lishi. He said softly, "Put away your axe. If I want to leave, you will not be able to stop me. If I was not confident, would I take the initiative to sit across from you?" Bai Lishi calmed himself down and said, "What do you want? Just say it. I have to obtain that heaven-ranked body-tempering secret manual." Xiao Chen said casually, "You have to be willing to give it to me first. Have you sold that 1,000-year-old snow ginseng?" Bai Lishi laughed loudly and said, "You should have said so earlier. I am keeping it. This is for you. Hand over the body-tempering secret manual." What Bai Lishi cultivated was the physical body. This 1,000-year-old snow ginseng could only increase a cultivator's cultivation. Although it was very precious, it would not be of any help to him. Hence, Bai Lishi tossed it over straightforwardly. Xiao Chen smiled and said, "You are too naive. You want to exchange one snow ginseng for a heaven-ranked secret manual? That is barely enough. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Bai Lishi snorted coldly and smacked the table heavily with his right hand. A huge force came from his palm, and the wooden table immediately shattered. The table did not shatter. Instead, it truly shattered, turning into countless wooden shavings. Bai Lishi's control over his strength had clearly reached a certain level. Bai Lishi raised his huge axe and hacked at Xiao Chen's head with lightning speed. However, just as the sharp axe was about to break Xiao Chen's head, Bai Lishi stopped what he was doing. The instant the table shattered, Xiao Chen pointed 2 fingers on his right hand at Bai Lishi's throat. A 3-inch-long short sword spun rapidly under Bai Lishi's neck. That 3-inch-long short sword looked plain and unadorned. However, Bai Lishi could feel a frightening energy from it. Bai Lishi did not doubt that if he made a move, that short sword would immediately pierce through his throat. Even though his physical body had been tempered to the point of being as tough as steel, it would not be an exception. Xiao Chen said coldly, "You can try. Let's see if your axe or my flying sword is faster." Bai Lishi's expression did not change as he said, "Brat, don't be too greedy. If I guessed right, you should have taken away the Savannah King's burial items. This small sword should be one of his burial items as well, right? The firmament body tempering art that you gave me should be a copy as well. Using a copy to exchange for 1,000-year-old snow ginseng is a sure win for you. If you are too greedy, have you thought about the consequences if I spread the news that you obtained the burial items?" Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "Go ahead and say it. I can also spread the news that you injured me. You snatched away all the burial items. I have close to 50,000 medial-grade spirit stones. You can try and see who can spread the news faster." Bai Lishi's expression turned sullen. His right hand grasped the handle of his axe tightly. He said coldly, "What exactly do you want?" The atmosphere between the two was very strange. One held his axe and pressed it against the other's head. The other controlled a secret treasure and pressed it against the other's throat.